211 at 454 South Main. Backup needed.
All right, welcome to another episode of Stonies Buds. Got a good bud here today. A bud I haven't seen in a long time. Chris Coulter. How you doing, dog?
Ethan, I'm doing way better than I deserve. How are you?
So good, my dog. So
Hell
good.
yeah.
I can't believe it's been so long, dude. I can't believe that we're chilling again, dude.
I know.
I don't even know it. We've seen each other here and there, but I want to say like a decade maybe, really, since we chilled.
Too much time for sure.
Yeah, I have memories of you in a boxing ring, beating people down. You remember that?
Well, yeah, I was eating some punches too there.
Yeah, you were, but you were looking good.
Roundy's no slouch in the ring.
Also, shooting and represent back in when we started. That was incredible.
Yeah.
You got KO'd in that one. But, you're from New Mexico, right?
That's right. Yep.
And there's not a lot of pro snowboarders come from there. Any others?
There was a couple older guys, Alan and Dovey Dector, Trevor Patterson. There was some guys that had some pro careers for me to look up to and mentor under a little bit.
Where'd you get started? Like, tell me the Coulter origin story. New Mexico, Albuquerque.
Well, really, I was riding a lot in Colorado because that's where my parents were going on ski trips. So at 11 years old, I was still on skis and I saw a snowboarder go by and I was really into skateboarding. So it obviously attracted me and I got my dad to give me a lesson. Back then, you had to get certified to be on the mountain. So you had to take a lesson and pass basically a test and show a card with your lift ticket that you were safe to be on the mountain.
A little money grab there. What resort are we talking?
That was Purgatory in Colorado.
Oh, sick, dude.
Yeah.
And your dad, first of all, props. Any father that's bringing the kids to the resort like that, props, or family, that's what got me into it too, so that's really cool. And for him to be like, all right, let's give this a try with snowboarding. I imagine Albuquerque probably had a pretty big skate scene.
Yeah, a lot of skateboarders. We had arroyos, cemented arroyos that we could skateboard, and my dad was always really supportive.
Building ramps for you and stuff?
Yeah, launch ramps when I was a kid. He'd shuttle us laps in the arroyos, real supportive about...
What's arroyos?
It's a ditch where the flash floods run.
Oh, sick. I think I've seen footage of that.
Yeah, and they would cement them. And in Albuquerque, a lot of them have really nice transitions. They're not just real sharp. So, it was like...
get in there and go to town.
Yeah, kind of like a half pipe, but different, and you're bombing it. And
dude, wasn't there a section in like the Animal Chin movie where maybe it's not that one, but they session a sick one of those or whatever, the whole crew?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I mean, there's definitely...
That one's probably in Cali.
Arroyos from New Mexico that show up. That are in skate videos and stuff. I mean, it was a place to go and hit that.
So your first big move then was getting certified.
Yeah, I guess so.
That was my first big move too.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you passed that test. The same? Yeah, you passed that test, and you're just like, dude, I'm in, and it's really just some kid that doesn't really care.
Yeah, I'm
sure. Mine wasn't even a snowboarder. I don't think it was.
Really?
Just some dude, just like whatever. Give me your $15.
Yeah, they just want to see that you can stomp and you're not going to kill someone.
You're not going to kill anyone. You're good today.
Right.
So you passed your thing, and then were you able to get a snowboard? Do you remember what snowboard?
Yeah. So we rented for that, and then I begged pretty much to get a snowboard, and I think the next year for Christmas I got a Burton Elite 135.
Nice, dude.
Skybacks that don't fold down,
Ooh, that one all plastic mold.
Yep. It was a demo board that I guess they gave my dad a little bit of a deal on or something. And
what color? Do you remember what color that was?
So it was black was the main, and then like yellow and purple.
Sick.
I think it had a guy on it doing something like this.
Dude,
my parents still have that board. I wish I could have brought it here today, but anyway.
Dude, that's so cool that you still have that. Make sure they don't get rid of that like next week in a garage sale or something.
No, they won't.
They
Definitely
know.
Not, yeah.
Wow, dude. And so were you hooked pretty quick or what?
Yeah, I mean, I was already really into skateboarding, so it made a lot of sense. It did take a few years before I would ski a little bit still and snowboard because I could ski and snowboarding was a struggle. I was learning.
Yeah.
And
the gear was a little like, it was tough.
Yeah.
Not like it was
Sorel
today.
boots, soft boots.
Stiff. It was like riding a 2x4.
But I broke the skis and my dad was like, all right, this is the fork in the road. He's like, I'm not going to support you on two activities. You got to pick one.
Yeah.
And so, the obvious choice was snowboarding. And and that's when I just started riding a lot more. When I turned 15, I started, I got my driver's license, and me and my buddies started going to a lot of the areas in New Mexico and riding more frequently, more than
What was the resort you guys were hitting?
Santa Fe was really close. Sandia Peak's just east of Albuquerque, so we were going there a lot.
Dude, I've never hit these spots, man.
And
They're pretty dope.
Yeah. There's actually decent riding for sure. Like especially for intermediate level rider, plenty of terrain to challenge yourself on. And then there was a little contest scene, and through that I started to meet more riders in the state. And this guy Trevor Patterson would build some really cool jumps up around Ski Rio, and he moved up there because they would give him free reign of the place. And
he was kind of pushing it for the scene.
Yeah, and he was like one of the top riders in the state at that time, and building crazy gap jumps and basically bringing the community together and having these events. And then we were getting to know each other and push each other, and you would see tricks that you hadn't seen before in person and that kind of thing. And
what year are we talking here?
So this is probably like 95 through about 97. Yeah.
You were like that first generation of when I started shooting photos, that first generation of riders I think I got with that got serious because we were making movies and all that. So what I want to kind of know is, how did you get to Utah? What got you from this kid you're starting to get in with the scene, you're seeing that there is a scene because you're doing the contests and stuff. Like what brings young Coulter to a place like Salt Lake City?
So,
and what was your focus? What were you thinking?
I mean, we were studying the game then. The skate shop had all the videos. You'd go in, hang out at the skate shop, watch the snowboard videos.
Do you remember what videos kind of stuck out to you?
A big one that really was wow was TB4.
Nice.
I remember Johan's part was mind blowing to me because I'd seen a lot of the kind of skate style stuff, but seeing people ride these massive mountains on a snowboard kind of put this whole just different level to it for me.
Different perspective.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, I would like to be good enough to do that one day. Besides the movies and all that, just really inspiring me to get basically committed to riding, super passionate about riding. At that point, you'd flip through the magazines and it was like every other photo was Brighton or Utah or something. And
you were noticing that?
Yeah, for sure. And so, right around the time I was about a senior in high school, the rep, Jason Bowes, that I was kind of riding under, and a close friend, Nate Cohn, that was working for him.
Woo.
Yeah. Jason had lived up here, so I came to visit him when I think I was about a senior, and he connected me with a local rider to go ride, and I saw the mountains, and the riding was on the wall. This is where I needed to be. And so when I was 19, I moved up here with a crew of Nemexis and Nate, and
I remember your crew.
Yeah, and we all came here.
You were a wild bunch.
Yeah, we enjoyed partying. We really were into the snowboard culture, the whiskey videos, and that kind of stuff. We like to have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you guys kind of made your entrance, and all of a sudden New Mexico was on the map.
Right.
Because you guys seem to always be repping the state as well, like the logo.
Yeah, we had
the state logo.
So much pride for a place we wanted to get out of.
I'm thinking yellow and red or something.
Yeah.
I can picture it. You guys were just always rocking it. And
for sure.
Yeah, it's funny, you want to get out of there, but then that's your bond and where you're from and your roots, so you don't want to fully bail on it.
Yeah.
And then here you are at Brighton, the New Mexi crew.
For sure. Hell of a crew.
So how does a kid like you you want to kind of get in there? What was your goal? Film? Did you want to do contests? Did you have a direction?
Obviously getting into the movies is the goal.
Did you think okay, I can make a living if I do this right, or was your goal more so I just want to get in there and snowboard and that was the thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point you saw that pros were making a living off of it, so you saw that was a possibility. And we were doing I was using contests to help pay the bills, and I was picking up jobs that were, not something that I was super committed to. When we first moved up here, I didn't have a car, so I walked over to Little Caesars, my buddy Jeremy and I got a job there, and just continued to get jobs like that would help us keep the bills paid. But if an opportunity came up and they weren't going to give you the time off, you could walk away from it.
Yeah, they're not going to hold you back.
You didn't feel like you were committing to something where you're going to let someone down by walking away.
Dude, that's so rad. And you actually thought about that. You're like, I'm going to get a job that's not going to lock me down, because if something happens, I'm going to be ready.
Yeah.
Nice. So what was that thing that happened then that kind of opened the door for you?
Well, I think honestly, like getting to meet you, and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't remember exactly how it happened,
either, dude.
But next thing I know, I'm hanging out with you and J2 and like Bobby Meeks. And
I think it's just the scene at Brighton wasn't huge like it is now.
Yeah,
if you're riding there, you're gonna meet the homies, right?
I mean, a big thing was meeting Shane Charlebois.
Yes.
I think I feel like without meeting him, I don't know that I would have cracked the code to being a pro snowboarder.
Do you remember meeting him?
I remember seeing him kind of filming for 411.
Sick.
And approaching him basically and asking him if he would film me.
Really? You straight up went up and were like, let's do this. That's a bold move.
Yeah.
If you didn't show up, it could have been like, yeah, this guy, you know what I mean? And then maybe he didn't shoot with you. So it obviously went well, and he liked you. Because you guys ended up having a full shooting relationship for years, I imagine.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't think I would have cracked the code without him. A lot of the first opportunities I had, he's directly connected to.
Because you were in Whitey movie, one of my favorite ones, Brainstorm, correct?
Brainstorm, and I think that's the one that Shane just filmed me.
He just kind of put you in.
Yeah, he just and Whitey didn't know, but Whitey was super cool and gave and put that footage in after the credits. He used.
Oh, sick! So that's how that went down. It was after the credits.
Yeah,
dude, and so many people might have been like, "Oh, there's not a sponsor getting him in," and Shane even like to focus the time. Like that's rad.
Yeah, and I think
that's like a Cinderella story right there.
I think Shane was putting in. Shane and Mikey basically had finished enough footage for a couple video parts that year.
Yeah.
And so I think they were like, all right, well.
We got extra time.
Yeah. And I think I got lucky that way.
Dude, and Mikey's part in that is like one of my favorite parts of all time. Like,
so
what a
good.
movie, dude.
Yeah.
And J2's in that movie.
Writing.
Yeah. Everything about that movie just has so much cool stuff going on.
Yeah.
So to be part of that is kind of historic. And for you I didn't even realize how that went down, that you like weren't part of the movie. And Shane just got it done. Shane's cool like that. I think he's done that for a handful of people.
And that same year, you guys gave me a chance to be in Represent.
So that was the same year you're in Represent?
That was the same year.
You had a season.
Yeah.
We had you out jibbing and stuff too.
Oh yeah.
I recall you getting knocked out at that ledge by the university.
Chris will go out there and he'll push it 100% and he'll punish himself over and over, and then he just gets up and does not quit until he gets the shot. It's just how he is.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm alright. Oh, shit! Oh my god, are you alright? Chris, let's go.
You okay? Oh. So just lay down, dude. Just lay down.
Lay down, Chris.
Just lay down.
Everyone's bleeding.
Yep.
But you had some opportunities pop up, you're just going ham.
Oh yeah, committed, all in. I wanted it pretty bad.
And you end up with 2 video parts. That's heavy. I didn't realize those were the same year. So that year must have been pretty hectic for you, huh? Everything's coming together. What's in some notable moments for you, tricks and all that? Like what do you, when you reminiscing back on that, are there any highlights that really stand out to you, or is it just all a mess of going crazy?
Like from that season?
Yeah,
or?
2 video parts, dude, that's crazy.
Well, a real notable one was, I got to do a trip out east. Never been out there. Sliding handrails.
Who's that with?
Ali was on that trip. Seth Hewitt was on that trip. Some legendary guys.
What was it for? Was it Absinthe or not Absinthe, but
that was during Brainstorm.
It was Whitey Brainstorm trip.
Yep.
Sick, dude. With Goulet.
But one thing that stood out to me on that trip is we ended up Shane had been doing a bunch of riding out there. He had an awesome pro career with Burton Rider and all that. And, you guys were from out there. And he took us to this place. If I remember correctly, he called it Cousin Eddie's. It was like a
you
mine.
went to Cousin Eddie's.
Yeah, and so we got to do a kicker shot there,
Yes.
which was like we were on a rail trip, and then all of a sudden we're getting to hit like pretty much like a backcountry jump. So
Dude, that's
that was
so
like
cool. He
a
took you
really
there.
memorable moment.
That was a story in the mag too, right? If I remember correctly, that trip. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
I think it
thought
was,
so.
and I think actually shout out to Brandon Bybee. I think he was on that trip too.
Ivy.
Yeah,
No, that was your first kind of snowboard trip.
yeah,
That had to be sick.
yeah. It was moments like that you start to feel like, oh, I'm part of this now.
This is happening.
Yeah.
I'm part of it. But you wanted to be kind of more of a big mountain dude. What were you thinking about being in the streets? You're just like, hey, I got this. I skateboarded. I can figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, I was into all the aspects of riding. I even tried to ride half pipe, even though I never really could do that. I just figured, back then it was
Back
all
then it was
about-
kind of like that, huh?
Yeah, you did it all back then. That's
Whatever
just-
they were shooting,
Yeah.
that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
So you better be good at all of it. Except pipe's kind of specialized, I think, like you're saying. And now look at it. Jeez, dude.
And getting to hang out here in Utah for a few seasons before that trip happened, there's so many opportunities here to practice on rails, rail gardens. There's the Storm Mountain Rail. There was a lot of cool
Dude, I think we
places.
got more snow back then or something
Yeah,
in the city, like consistently.
yeah, most definitely.
Because I feel like we were out a lot on different street spots. And I guess like you're saying, those rails are now gone, like that Storm Mountain one. And we can't go to I think they canceled the rail gardens, right? I'm not sure. You're probably not up on that, but
Yeah.
I think the police locked that down.
Oh,
now.
really? That's
yeah,
sad
just
to
as
hear.
of I think last season, a couple people squeaked in. No, maybe not. Maybe 2 seasons ago, I think they kind of shut it down.
Oh, that's really sad to hear. I didn't
Which
know
is
that.
it's whack. I don't know if kids were fighting it and figured out. At least they have the Bone Zone now, which is insane. They can go up and do that, but
And Woodward.
Woodward, I guess is all you really need, huh? Yeah. But it was a different time back then, and so you get into two video crews, and where'd you go from there?
I think the next season I got another chance to shoot with Kingpin, but actually, after those video parts came out, the phone still wasn't ringing.
Sponsor wise, I was just going to ask you that. Where were you at sponsor wise?
So, at that point I started going, okay, well maybe this isn't coming together. And I started thinking about plan Bs and stuff, obviously still staying really optimistic that it would happen. But it took a handful of months before I started getting some phone calls, but I did get a deal with Rip Curl and then eventually Elevation Snowboards.
There you go.
Yeah.
E-Tree, look that up?
Oh yeah, E-Tree.
Sick,
for
dude.
sure. And Bert Lamar.
Yes. Oh, he was part of that.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy when you're in these top level. Like, I mean, Whitey's was top level, if you ask me. Represent, that wasn't top level. That was our first movie. Looking back at it, it's a rad, like, cult classic, but it wasn't, like, top level, like a Whitey movie. So that is what it is. But getting in Whitey's movie, man, I would think the phone would be blowing up. But sometimes it's just, and it's still like this. It's just crazy, dude. The
Well,
budget.
and I was in the credits too, so maybe a lot of people didn't
Didn't
notice
get
that.
past that.
I probably got more recognition from the Represent.
Really? Because you were in the movie.
Yeah, and just since we're on Represent, I just I watched that recently. Hadn't probably watched that in 15
I bet so many
years.
people listening have no idea. I'll put a link
Yeah,
in.
and but we've got 3 friends that were a big part of that aren't with us anymore.
Damn, 3.
James Roundy, Scotty Goodale, and Rusty White. So
Dude, 4. J2.
on J2.
Dude, that's insane. 4 people from that movie.
So respect to those guys.
Dude.
And some characters.
Dude, it sucks because I sometimes glaze past, like Roundy, dude. I totally haven't thought about that in a while. And it's crazy how they stack up so much that you can almost glaze past one and forget about the scenario, and then it comes back to you like a ton of bricks. To think that 4 people in that movie, that sucks.
Yeah, some good,
Different reasons.
some really cool dudes that we got to spend some time with.
Yeah, and that's a good thing because we have to spend rad time with them, and I guess we have to look at those moments. But dude, that sucks, and it seems to be a reoccurring theme in snowboarding, and it's all different reasons. That's what sucks, and I don't know if it's because we know so many people, because our circle's big,
Yeah.
bigger than a lot of people's circles, let's say.
And we're getting a little older now too.
Yeah, so the older we get, the bigger the circle gets. But then there's the dangers of what you do. Like, we'll get to it later, what your second career is with guiding. That's dangerous shit. There's the dangers the pros have just being in that element with the mountains, and then there's the thing where the riders get done, they don't know what they're gonna do, and depression sets in, and that's a whole thing is the depression. And then there's just people get sick. It happens, J2 had cancer. Rusty's was just an accident. That's a whole nother thing that just happens,
Yeah, and Scotty too.
Yeah, and Scotty is just an accident riding, so it sucks, man. It's just life, I guess. I've kind of thought a lot about it. I'm sure you have too. It's just we're all gonna die. You know what I mean? So I guess it's part of the process, right? I mean, got to remember those good times.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it?
I think it's something you touched on is just that transition from, these lucky lives we get to live
Yes.
where we're out every day with purpose and direction. And then when that gets taken away from you, that's a hard transition.
Super hard.
And something I've found is that I have to keep finding these activities that give me this intense sense of purpose, and whether it's like climbing or recently it's been riding motorcycles, but
Not as much the adrenaline, but the purpose.
it's the purpose, and it's something to me, it's something that puts us in a place where we can have an empty mind, where you can be so into this activity that everything else, all the other problems in life kind of disappear.
I love that.
So when I can find, and I've shifted the activities, but I do find that I need something like that in my life. If I don't have that, the idle time is not healthy for me.
And it's that time when your mind kind of, what it is being present. Really, is kind of what you're coming to. You're out there and you're fully present. You're not getting anything distracting you as far as your phone in your pocket or this email, this bill you got to pay. You're 100% present in the moment because you have to be for what you're doing. And I've heard other people kind of talk about that in different ways. And being present in life is something I think we're losing because of all the technology. So that's awesome. And I think it's good advice maybe to pass on to people is, find that activity, right, that keeps you present and mindless, like you're saying, like just be able to do your thing, right?
Yep. And those activities are often going to connect you to people as well, right?
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to get isolated these days.
Yes, it's really easy, right? Because you can sit in Japan, dude, they're losing they don't know what to do because so many people are just in their apartments. They're not leaving and they're not starting families and they don't know what to do. They think they're worried that their culture is going to start to collapse because not enough people are getting married. And so, like you're saying, it's easy to kind of just get out and go to computer land, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
So your advice to people is get out there and do this.
Yeah. Find something you're passionate about, something that makes you excited to wake up in the morning and study something or get out and pursue something.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be athletic either, right?
No.
It can be anything from RC cars, whatever you're into, right?
Photography.
Yeah, photography. You can go take pictures of you doing crazy stuff.
I think it's just something that you're gonna put passion to, and it's gonna drive you. And then if you're passionate about an activity or a hobby, then that's gonna lead you to people too, I think.
And community, I guess that comes back to, and that's huge, huh?
Yeah.
Love that, dude. Wise words from Chris Coulter right here. So let's get into some ads. You know what I mean? We got these big corporate sponsors, dude, like Nomi's mugs. These people are, they're good people who make these mugs. They're actually a bunch of gnomes out of the continent of Antarctica, I think, that produce these gnome mugs for us. And, it's cool to have gnomes designing products for gnomes, by gnomes for gnomes. And what do you see those hands tripping out? Tweak, tweak, tweak. By gnomes for gnomes. It's a product that is, like I said, made for gnomes, made by gnomes. And this is Nomi mugs. If you want to support the cause, or maybe you just want to wake up and drink coffee or tea out of a really cool mug with a snowboarder on it, check out nomimugs.com. Stonies Buds Prince was cool enough to, which is me, I guess. We got this Coulter iconic image right here. I mean, I think it's iconic because it's a spot that everyone gets to see. You're going up the chairlift. And you know what? This chairlift is gone now, but you can see a little bit of the chair right over here. And that is the old Crest chair. They just popped in that new six-banger, but back in the day, the old Crest, I was able to shoot this photo of Chris from the lift with walkie-talkies for timing. And, man, it was a big dog back then. Not very many people have jumped this. Chris has signed 25 of these. You'll see his SIG right down here. We got 25 of these. We'll be popping on the website. And get them while you can, man. This is a dope little image right here. Hey, I want to talk to you guys about Moonchild. Thank you so much, Moonchild, for support coming on this year. Kind of blind before I even had a show out. Was huge. Really, really carried me through. And very thankful for that, guys. Moonchild is a dope brand. Good people that are passionate about snowboarding, just like you and I are. And it's funny. They originally, one of the shapers and creators of the brand made this board behind me, the Malibu, for his cousin, I think, and just wanted to make him a cool custom shape. So he made this board, and it turns out people were just loving it. Everyone who got on it loved this board. So they were like, we're putting this in the line, and it became the Malibu. They submitted that to White Line's board review for 2023-24. This bad boy won one of the top freeride boards of the year, and that's huge. You're going in the ring against, the biggest companies out there with Burton and Nitro and Solomon, these guys who have years and years and years of R&D down, and they've kind of perfected the science. Capita's got the mothership, dude, and all these guys rightfully also have boards in that category that have won awards. But to sit neck and neck with them is a big deal, and it just goes to show that this board rips. And if you're looking for a new board, the Malibu is the board you're going to want to grab from now until the end of the year. You can get 10% off if you use the code Stonies Buds 10 at checkout. That's Stonies Buds 10 at checkout. I'll pop that up on the screen. That's going to get you 10% off, and it's only from now until the end of the year. So grab one. You will not be sorry. This board, just look at the shape, man. This board just wants to go. Get that thing in some powder, and you're going to have one of those days you're never going to forget. Check it out, man. I wouldn't steer you wrong. These boards are made top quality by top quality people, and it doesn't get any better than that, man. Support these guys on the come up, man, because they got big things coming in the future. But the Malibu's where it's at right now. Let's go. Cool. So all this talk about Shane Charlebois, and look where the cat's right there.
Oh, man, amazing. Thanks, Shane, for showing up.
I'm just wondering, why is my cord longer than all your guys'?
Mine's coming under the table, dog.
Mine's wrapping around my neck.
Oh, yours is supposed to probably come under the table.
Oh. Well.
Can we live with it?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, it's great to see you guys.
So you're coming straight from the bird.
Yeah.
We were here just reminiscing, and he just told me the story about how he kind of rolled up on you at Brighton and was just like, you're doing 411, huh? Can you film me? What happened next?
Well, I always say you can say whatever you want as long as you back it up.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris is one of those genuine people that I'll never forget it. Just him coming up, bottom of Brighton, and he was like so stoked. Hey, man, you're shooting for 411 Video Mag?
Did you even have a camera out or anything? Or?
No camera out or anything. I don't know how the word got out. But he was like, you should film me. And I just remember thinking, cool, hell yeah. Like, I know this cliff right off Millie. Let's go.
So you went right then?
Oh, I think we went right then.
Cocky little punk.
Yes. and you delivered. I guess you landed or at least went big or something happened.
I'll give you guys the clip. I remember it so well because it was like, hell yeah, little dude. Like, fucking send it, And I think, what'd you do off a chicane or something?
Oh, wow.
Just stomped it. First try. And it was like, hell yeah, let's go.
All right, let's shoot more. Yeah. That's sick. So did he make it in 411 then?
He did.
He did.
That's where that clip is that I'll give you.
Awesome, dude. We would love to get that clip and see the action. That's a trick that
Thanks for the opportunity, Shane.
Dude, it was all you.
That's like an Eminem Moss Spaghetti moment right there where you could have really blown it and then had to, I don't know what you had done, go back to New Mexico, just start over.
I definitely remember thinking, you better not screw this up.
Especially since you rolled up in the lot like that. It wasn't like
back it up.
Let's go out and shoot. Like you guys did this right then and there. That's props. And that's how a career is born. And then you guys went on to work together a lot, I think, right?
Well, I think first impressions last forever.
Yeah.
And but at that point, I just, I think genuine people, it's kind of seamless when you come together, So in that moment, like I said, you can say whatever you want, but if you back it up and you're genuine and you're sincere about it, not like a little arrogant jerk.
Yeah, because a lot of people can be arrogant, and then the whole situation goes different.
Yeah, and then it's sour. But in that time, it was just so genuine, so sincere that I think that, it was more like that it picked us, and, Chris has always just done what he does. So.
Yeah, and he's never been like an arrogant dude to go with his skill that he has. He's always been chill, and I think that's helped you a lot, I'd imagine, because you have just a rad aura about you, like presence, I guess, and you rip, but you're not like all cocky and crazy, and that's dope, I think, in first impressions, right?
Yeah, people talk about confidence. It's weird, the difference between confidence and arrogance.
Yes.
And I think Chris is one of those people that is humbly very confident, and those are the people that usually have a little bit more than what you imagine. Because
he was telling me how you shot with him that year. He wasn't actually in the movie. You just kind of shot with him on what video were we talking?
I think that was Brainstorm.
Brainstorm. And you just kind of went out and got him apart. That happened after the credits. And dude, props to you for doing that, because a lot of people don't think that way. They want, like, oh, if he's not bought in, we can't spend time with him. And then people get left out that are dope. The people with the best skills sometimes get left on the wayside. So it's sick that you brought him in like that.
It was also timing. I believe that during those Kingpin years and those earlier snowboard films, things were more based on our personal relations out there on the mountain. And it wasn't so much like, let's talk to his sponsors and see if they are going to back him or whatever. Because I think the same thing happened with you and Seth that year, and it was just...
Yeah,
it was just like, cool.
And it's a good thing you didn't want to talk to my sponsors, because I didn't really have any.
And that's what sucks. Excuse me. Some people get left to the side, and it's like, then you don't get the Jake O's of the world, or Lucas Magoons, even, like just people who are really sick, but they didn't have that backing. And I think it was some years past then is when it got only about the backing, and that was a bad time, because a lot of people got left to the sidelines.
Well,
So,
it was perfect
props.
timing because I'd already been friends with Jared Winkler for a long time.
Props.
And then when Chris and the New Mexican guys moved, they were just a rad crew of dudes at Brighton, and I think that probably is what brought it all together,
Yeah. Winkler was instrumental for us, New Mexis. He took us under his wing and made us feel at home, introduced us to all his friends. And
That's interesting. I wonder what the connection was there. He was
were-
new to that job?
We were
or?
both riding with bows, and Winkler was just on the hill then charging, riding
Yeah.
hard,
Was it before he had the job at
Oh,
Brighton?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Way before.
No, he was
shredding.
Shredding.
Props to shredding Winkler. And then you guys had a career that went on past Whitey into Absinthe. You guys shot some parts together, and maybe were instrumental in getting him to the real mountains that he was trying to aim for. I don't know. You guys tell me.
Oh, absolutely. There again, Shane was like bringing me into this new thing, and that's part of what I say. Like, for me, cracking the code of being this pro that I wanted to be, like, Shane has been instrumental, like multiple steps through that.
I think people can forget how important it is to have the people around them that help them to help each other. You know what I mean? You think you can, like, or a lot of people will be like, why is that guy doing this? And he's sponsored and shooting with them. And it's because he maybe has this relationship that helps him. And it's just how life is. You gotta, the people you meet, you gotta surround yourself with good people and elevate each other. And a lot of people, I think, miss that in life, It's all about relationships and good people, I think.
For me, it's always, I think about all the people that personally helped, when I was younger, when we were younger.
Yeah.
And we may never be able to directly help them.
Yes.
But if we can pass it on to the next people, then that chain of events
That's the service.
Keeps going. And just like Chris has passed it on to other people and so forth, and just keeps going. I only, held the door open. It was Chris that
he has
chucked
to.
his
He
feet
has
and
to
stomped it every
lead.
time.
You can lead the
Absolutely.
camel to water, right? But he's got to learn how to drink.
Yeah.
And his form of drinking was going huge and landing it.
It's funny too I think to stay in the club or be part of the team, it's like you got to be fun to be around, and that's like something I really think about with both of you guys. Anytime I've hung out with you guys, it's like the banter, the analogies that Shane loves to make, and anytime Shane's name comes up, people are like, "Oh, I love hanging out with Shane." You know,
His
and,
interesting
like,
way of looking at
yeah,
things and
yeah.
telling them to people definitely
You
get
know,
people, which is rad.
Which is funny though, because I don't spend that much time thinking that personally, but I appreciate it.
It just
in other
comes
people,
natural, bro.
I know, but I think
It's just
we're all
you.
just doing our roles, and once again, it's like I think it picks us more than we pick it. We either fight it or we embrace it, And in our particular, coming together in this life, in that one moment of shoot me, and just being like, fuck yeah, hell yeah, dude, and then you doing it, that just connected everything else, But then there's always like the other things. Remember when we were sledding, we had to like pull the sled up the freaking hill by hand.
Oh
What?
yeah, well, are you talking about the time we had to like pull a sled
Physically
out, like
push it.
chariot? Didn't we do one where we charioted a sled out, like 2 sleds towing another sled?
And then there was like the hill up in Farmington in the freaking woods.
You had to carry the sled without it
Oh, man.
working.
It was like
Those
I don't
moments
know.
bring
It
you
was like
closer
some
together.
Commando shit.
Yeah, the effort that goes into putting a video part out there and being part of the Lost Boys it's for real. You
Yeah,
know?
people don't always see that, huh?
One thing I remember about working with Shane too that I always enjoyed is like I remember so many days where the sun was starting to set, the kicker was done for the day or whatever we were sessioning, and you and I were on to the adventure. Let's go explore. Let's see what's out there for possibly tomorrow or next week or whatever. There was a lot of long days where
You were that dude who
would
probably
go.
had the extra
speaking of-
gas can, I imagine.
It's funny you say that because I was just gonna say, I'll never forget that time in the Uintas, and we had gone all the way out to that super far zone with you and Wastel, and it was like, oh man, I don't know if we have enough gas to make it back.
No.
And then this guy, he's like, well, that's funny because I stashed some gas at this one tree over here, and we fucking
real?
go over there. And there's just stashed gas over in an unnamed lake area.
Yeah.
And
That
You
zone
just had
it was just deep enough that I knew the day was going to
There
come
would be a day.
where we were going to need that.
And you don't think you would have made it?
I'm just saying, not
I mean, that would have
everybody
been
is that
brutal,
prepared.
dude.
That's-
Yeah.
I mean,
You don't even have to come up that short to have it be so miserable
Oh, yeah.
that you're just stuck.
That's far.
So you would just keep one there in case you had that day that you were really going after it.
I think we had a time where it was like close and we didn't know if we were going to make it back. And so, yeah. just was
You
like,
were shooting in the
better-
Uintas a lot?
We used to go there a lot not because it was easy, because it wasn't easy out there, but we knew that we weren't going to run into other people or get our jumps poached, and it was the exploration,
You go and it's like a party these days. I don't know if it's a good snow cycle.
Even back then, we knew there was good terrain to be had out there, but I think we were avoiding it because we knew it was saturated.
I meant you go to these days. It's like people drive in to hit that. So it's hard to get
I
a-
don't know if you can take the names out that you're
Oh,
bleeping out later.
yeah, true, huh?
Because we
Make a
went to
note.
those zones.
We
and,
can't say
yeah.
any of those names. I'll beep them, actually.
Yeah.
I'll do the beep.
No, but it is true. I
Or what's
felt
that
like
one
back
area?
then-
Montezuma. You go to Montezuma.
Oh man,
The best zone.
The best zone out there. You go to Montezuma,
wanna
dude.
go
You hook
there.
left at that one tree.
yeah, Monte Cristo.
Monte Cristo, that was it.
Yeah.
But these days, you go to these spots and there's people drove in from Cali because they heard it was good, and it's like not like it used to be. I think so. Back then, there was only the local crews. I feel like, and now you're dealing with crews upon crews.
I mean, that's like how it goes. Look at Haines Pass, when we would all go up there back in the day.
Now, mad
And
people
then you
drive
go
up.
there, there's like yurts and shit.
Really?
People all on their
You guys took me
adventure
there
tour.
once. That place is insane.
Yeah.
So they just will camp up and like not even shooting. They're just adventure cycling.
We went there a few years ago, and there were, like tour guided groups hanging out there,
Crazy.
which is so weird. 'Cause
That is crazy to think because,
back in the day.
Yeah, there was nobody.
So did you end up going on heli trips with Absinthe back then?
Yeah, the first year I went up, that season I had a shoulder dislocation problem, and so
remember
bad
that.
crashes, it would come out, and so I didn't want to. I had already kind of spoiled one heli session with that, and I didn't want to ruin someone's day, so I skipped the heli that season, even though that's what I wanted bad. And I came up when these guys were done heliing, and Shane stuck around, Wastel, Brandon Ruff, drove up with some sleds, and then we were hitting the pass.
That's a crew, dude.
Yeah. was
So you
good
guys just
times.
hung at the pass. It was a little cheaper. And John, the crew, was probably right next door in the city, but you had a crew over here in the pass and they were just making it happen.
Actually, Beardmore was there too.
Beardmore, too.
Beardmore.
Yeah.
Beardmore was sledding to the top of those peaks with his dog.
What, really?
He'd have his dog in his like snowmobile lap, sled up spots that most people couldn't even get up to.
Dude, jeez, man.
Like pop to the top, turn it around, and then come back down.
Where were you guys staying? Were you like back driving in there every day, or were you like camping out up in there?
Yeah, 33 mile.
Oh, 33 miles. Damn,
Yeah.
dude. And when you said spoil a heli sesh, so you went anyways, even though your shoulder was questionable, knowing how much is at stake money wise and all that?
Yeah, at that point, I think I didn't realize how bad of a problem I was having. You
Yeah.
know? And so I think the second time it came out that season, I was in Canada on like a Dakine trip or something. And it was going to be the day. The snow was good, the light was good, and I had a fall, shoulder pops out. Had to go back into and they took me to some weird little town, weird hospital. They ended up having to put me under to get the shoulder back in. Brandon Ruff was there.
Dude, that's way out, huh?
He actually said I flatlined, and then they gave me like an adrenaline shot or something to pull me out of it. And then I was being an asshole because it was like I was blackout drunk, you know?
Yeah, because you had the weird amount of anesthetic or something?
Yeah, it was like they gave me too much. And then they had to like bring me back out of it. It was a really small hospital. I mean, they had to call the
Did they know what they were
doctors
doing?
like from home to come in. You know, we were like close to Jasper, BC. I mean, we were in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere.
Dude, I'd never heard of someone having to get put under and then flatlining because of their shoulder. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I remember from Brandon telling me because I was
You were out.
obviously- I was out.
But
And-
that's another question. You never really had like too gnarly of injuries, yeah?
You know,
Wear and tear.
though, you know, I never did an ACL or anything like that. You know, the shoulder was a bit of a thing, but I got that fixed. And then I did 2 seasons after that, I went to Australia because I used to go down there and compete and coach for like 3 seasons. And then I heard about this, and I would do well in contests down there. It wasn't as competitive as here. So I could like podium there, and I heard about this big prize money contest. So I went down there to, you know, try to earn some money, and I actually came up short and on a jump and shattered my femur. That was like at the knee joint.
What year was that?
So I think that was right after we filmed More.
Wow.
I think that was that summer. And I thought I just sprained it, right? So I came home.
You thought this shattered femur was a sprain?
Yeah, because I still rode that day.
Yeah.
And it was like basically at the knee joint I exploded it, you know?
Dude.
Like where it goes into that joint. But I had sprained my knee before, and so I thought it was like that, and I came home and it was like starting to feel better. And so right before the season started in like October, I was like, I gotta start testing my knee, and I tried to go skateboarding. And I was like, okay, this isn't working. So I finally went to the doctor,
How long after?
like 2 months after I heard it,
Holy smokes.
which was a
dude.
huge mistake.
Yeah, because it starts to heal weird,
Bones
right?
all-
Yeah, and so they had to do this crazy surgery called a microfracture, where they just drill a bunch of holes in the bottom of the femur, and then the marrow comes out and it heals.
What?
And so they did that, and so I missed a lot of this winter. I think, does it go more optimistic? Anyway, I think you guys were filming optimistic this season, and so I was trying to recover.
I think optimistic and then more, because wasn't it pop, ready, optimistic,
Or
more?
future proof, pop future proof,
future proof.
and then whatever
Oh,
came
man.
after that. Anyway, like
I love it. You guys put
Yeah,
the
some
years
history
together by
math.
what the title was is how
Yeah.
you decide what the
So-
year was.
So that winter, I was missing out, you know, but I was on schedule to be ready to go by like kind of mid-March. And so, you know, that season, I was like, all right, I'll just do the whole deal up in Alaska. And I think that was a season where like, that was like Absinthe crew had a bunch of people.
So you say do the whole deal in Alaska, that basically the full absinthe commitment.
I was just going to try
As
to film
long
my
as they're
whole
gonna be
part
there.
up there, you
Your
know.
whole
and-
part.
Yeah, so I drove
That
up
was
with
the year we were there for.
like a bunch, and
Like
the whole crew, like
2.5
Velotica,
months or
Brewsty, everyone
months.
was there.
Yeah.
And so I drove up with snowmobiles just ready to be there till like May or whatever, into May.
Yeah, just doing this in the May, huh?
And I get there and I find this knot in my knee, and I'm thinking it's like just muscle, and I'm massaging it, and I pop this thing out.
What, it comes out of your knee?
Yeah, and this is like the first or second night I get up there after driving up there. And I had already been riding a little bit and testing the knee, and I was feeling good. Hadn't shot anything though. And so I popped this thing out, and it turns out to be a loose body, right? Like a piece of bone that had just grown.
Is that what they call it, a loose body?
From the trauma my knee had been in.
Oh,
it just grew this piece of bone on the outside of my quad. And I popped it off of the blood supply, and then it was starting to get lodged in the knee joint and causing a problem.
This is after you broke it and started to move a different way or something?
Yeah, this is like 6 months after surgery or whatever.
Dude.
And so it's starting to get locked up in my knee. So I call my surgeon. I ask him if he has anybody in Anchorage I can go see to try to get this thing taken out so I can come back and get to work. So I drove up to Anchorage from Haines to see the surgeon. And he's like, I can do it. And so I contact my insurance company, and they're like, we'll cover Utah costs, but you got to cover the rest, you know? And then I start asking the surgeon, like, how realistic is it you're going to pop this out and I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this? And he's like, I'm not sure, you know, it doesn't sound like a good plan. So I back down from this plan, come back down to Haines. I leave my truck and the sleds there for the crew, and I just fly home and go to my surgeon. And he actually ended up going in and pulling that out. And then the way the microfracture worked is it grew back as all these little peaks in my knee, and it was going to tear up the cartilage on the bottom of the knee joint. And so he smoothed all that out, which really...
Insane.
You know, for my long-term health, that was better that I did that.
Yeah.
Rather than just getting the little piece of bone pulled out.
And
so,
there's no way you could have been like right back shooting too after.
I think
what I mean?
I think if they just did the loose body, maybe.
Maybe.
But for my long-term health, it was good that I went and did this. He did a little more work on it.
If you grind out the bottom like that, you'd probably ruin the rest of your knee if it was all peaks again.
Yeah, exactly, because it was all jagged, you know? And so my surgeon was like, yeah, no, that was good. But anyway, that was my big injury that I had, but I was pretty lucky with like never done an ACL, nothing like that. You know, I got beat up just like everyone else, but nothing too crazy. You know?
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I was really into cross training.
That's why I asked that, because you seem like a really healthy dude, and during your time shooting, you seem like you're really focused on that.
I mean, I enjoyed partying just like anyone else, but I think at that time I was more of a binge partier and focused and staying clean mostly. And you know,
You were like a college boy partier, just binge beer. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And then back focused to your athletics.
We had big nights when it was the right time.
Yeah.
And other pretty focused. You know,
That's what it seems like to me.
Swimming, yoga. So at one point I got into Kung Fu and
That's the Kung Fu.
yeah. And the place I landed actually was like, I wanted to like learn to fight and whatever, but this teacher actually made us like meditate and do yogas and stuff for like an hour and a half every class before he would teach us. And that stuff actually ended up being way more beneficial to me and what I was doing than the Kung Fu stuff, you know?
That's really sick.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you'd be there for a couple hours learning some heavy shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And your journey here into Absinthe and all that, I guess, is what opened up. I mean, actually, I don't know if we want to get to your next phase, because I'd still like to hear a little bit more about your sponsors and your film career, and what was your favorite movie highlight. If you guys have any stories together that you want to touch on. And
let's talk about Rockers Gap. The 2 sessions were insane.
multiple sessions, huh?
Yeah, it was, you know, I think we had been out in the area shooting other things, and maybe we had seen someone hit it at some point, maybe a season before that or something. And so it kind of was like, all right, you know.
Had you shot that before with a different crew with Absinthe?
No, but you know what's weird is I remember, this is just a little side note, around the same time, our buddy Donnie used to be shooting for the Nitro Circus crew. And I remember we saw him up there one day, and he was like, hey, we're just looking at Rockers Gap because Pastrana or somebody wants to go off of it on an inner tube.
Oh my God.
And we were like, oh man, tell us when you're doing it so we're not here. Like, did not want to be anything.
That sounds like spinal damage for sure.
But I almost feel like that led to it being like, dude, if they're talking about hitting it in an inner tube,
we should probably do this.
yeah, this is probably realistic.
That was a big dog.
Yes. Sun came out. We were there already. Hit it right away. And I think we learned that landing heats up. We learned that day. And we also didn't, it was only so wide. And so we ran out of landing as well. So I don't know. I think it was maybe after that session, we knew there was more snow coming and we widened it up, I think, that evening. Or maybe we came back the next day and it was snowing and we widened it. And then I think that right at sunset, we got a brief couple jumps on it. And I think that's when we got the cover.
Nice, yeah,
'Cause
because
it was
it
like
was sunset.
sunset.
It was a sunset scenario.
And then I think it snowed more that night. And then we came back the next morning and I really wanted the 9 on it and I couldn't get it. I tried a bunch of times, sessioning it with Forey. I think at that point, Gigi had shown up.
That's
so
right.
He got some hits
Right
on
off
it
the
after
right
he-
off the
Back three.
airport, right?
Back
It
three.
was
He like
so
showed
sick.
up
Maniac.
from the plane ride and went right there, didn't he? And landed a trick, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I remember that day walking out to my angle. Just the snow was so deep. I still remember that. Like it was a good storm, huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. But I was frustrated because that season I was riding a 157, and that was a season that Kurt and I had done this really cool board series together. We were both riding Sapient, same boards, and we were like, well, why are we both on the same board and have 2 different pro models or whatever? And so we did a collab board the next year. But anyway, when they made the boards, they only produced the 157, and there was supposed to be like a 160.
Oh.
And I really wanted that bigger board for landing in the powder. And I felt like I was setting that thing down pretty good and I could not hold on to it. And I wanted the bigger board.
That landing wasn't the steepest
though.
either.
That was valiant. I mean, just to look at that thing,
Big air.
in real life, I feel like, every time you see something on camera, if it looks big on camera in real life, it's freaking huge looking, like bonkers. And that might be one of the bigger jumps, right?
I'm going to say it must be.
Step down.
Yeah, it's pretty big. The landing's not quite steep enough. It's a lot of impact.
Do you feel the landing then pretty hardcore?
Oh, yeah. It's a hard landing.
I mean, how high of a step down is that? Like 50 feet, 60 feet?
Something
Without
for sure.
exaggerating.
Yeah.
60 feet down and then however far across? I don't know.
Yeah, it's
That's crazy.
It's brutal.
a scary one. Every time, I think that was one that
You don't get
some
used
jumps,
to it?
Some jumps you kind of get used to. That one was like every time you're like, okay.
But then flash forward the next time when you came back,
Which was
that
years later.
legendary.
No health insurance.
How many years we talking?
So I remember chatting with Bodie when he was in Haines, and he was mentioning, hey, I think I want to do that jump. I was like, I have a vendetta with that jump. If you're gonna hit it and I'm around, I would love to join you.
Ha.
So I caught word that he was thinking about doing it, and I called him up, and he allowed me to join the session. And I only hit it 3 times, and I squirrely set down my 9 and finally got it. Had the little bit bigger board, no health insurance, no real sponsors. That one was just for me
Yeah,
because I knew I could do it.
And you got it.
Yeah.
that was next level.
That's
For
pretty
sure.
sick, dude. The vendetta coming back and getting your Rocky moment right there, I guess.
What was really sick though was watching Bodie just set down a bunch of tricks on that. Like
Yeah,
a boss.
would Bodie get on that bad boy?
Oh man.
He went
I can't
to
remember if I was there or not.
Switchback one, the back 7. Oh,
I feel like maybe I was there.
He had like
But
3
I
or
don't know.
4
Yeah,
tricks
yeah.
on it.
Yeah, he was going to town.
Yeah.
But for someone in any next level sport to, have a vendetta, like where someone's like, okay, I didn't get that knockout in that like final round of the big championship thing. And then after retirement, come back and be like, I just want one more.
Just give me
One more round.
give me a shot. I heard you were gonna hit this
like
jump.
how rare is that? Like that's awesome. That's one of the
Dude, it's awesome,
sickest
man.
things, for
Give
sure.
me- I think this thing it's for you, buddy. That's for you. It is. It's because you really you didn't have a sponsor that was like, oh, you better go do this. You didn't have health insurance. You were just like, it's for the love of the game.
Yeah, no photo incentive. No, that was just to keep being one of the Lost Boys,
Just keep at it, dude. That's really cool, dude. You had you kind of briefly went through your sponsors there for a second, huh? Sapient, is that one I heard? It says Solid at the end. Did you guys bring back Solid?
Yeah, so it was really elevation snowboards was an awesome thing, Bert Lamar, legend, running it. Inglesman, Scotty Arnold. It was a really cool thing. And
Was Bert pretty involved?
Oh, super involved.
Really? I didn't know that.
And
That's really cool.
I mean, that was his baby, and it was an honor to be part of that. And then, some things happened where basically some stuff went wrong at the factory, and I don't know the exact details, but our budgets that we were getting basically kind of disappeared. And, we all believed in it. So we tried, the plan was to stick around and get it back online, but it got to a point where we weren't getting paid. And then, Wastel approached me with this opportunity with Sapient, and it was a good paycheck. I was going to get to be on the team with Wastel. Boards looked good. Donnie De La Salle was on there. And
That's sick.
What was the story with Sapient?
And so it was these guys that had I think they started Fila, right? And so the first year of Sapient was really funny because they were just blasting these huge logos in the magazine. And then after that year, they kind of came and sat us down and they're like, guys, we're not selling boards. And we kind of had to be like, well, yeah, you're not going to just come into this snowboard industry and do it like you did Fila. Because I think they just did huge logos in like Sports Illustrated and these magazines, and they somehow made it work. And we're like, you can't just put our name in a logo. It's like this, the people buying these boards are smarter than that.
Yeah.
You got to use images of us. We got to create something here.
It's got to be something
feeling.
special. Yeah,
Have
you
a
can't just
foundation.
Yeah, you can't
And
just
so-
throw a logie up and expect magic to happen after that.
Yeah. So the next season they listened and they started using good images of us, and started, I think it was starting to catch on, and get into, I think, the third season of it. And these guys, they didn't want to re-sign Kurt, and Kurt had just done some amazing video parts. I mean, it's not like he was fading out. He was on fire, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around that. And he had brought me on. At this point, he was like way more than a friend to me, and I was only there because he was there. And I was like, well, let's just, whatever you're going to give me, just cut that in half, give Kurt half,
Wow.
and let's
awesome.
go.
That's big, dude.
And they wouldn't do it.
What?
And so I was like, well, if you're not going to do that, I'm not signing. And so I probably overconfident in where I was with stuff. I thought I'd go find another board
It really
deal,
says a lot about you, though, dude.
which
that's
I
sick.
never found.
You didn't find that board
But did
sponsor.
they just disappear after that?
No, they kept going. I had one of my friends, Craig Boyu, rode for them. I mean, I think they were still around for like, at least 5 years or so after that.
The problem is, though, something like that happens. It's like it slowly is a cancer that's
Yeah.
going to slowly put them out in 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I ask you that, but I feel like after you and Kurt,
That's how I
it
feel
was
too.
just like it just dissolved
In my
into-
mind, it was just gone instantly.
into the mist.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, and so and so Kurt and I started doing the solid thing and that, but shortly after that, I started dropping sponsors. Well, pretty much all at once, like right around 2008. I had this knee thing. I didn't have a part in the Absinthe film that season, and the recession was happening, and things just kind of shut down after that.
You know how old you were at this time?
I think I was right around 29-ish.
So you're also at that age,
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
It's different now, but at that time, that was like a cutoff point almost to, as far as getting that new sponsor with a lot of vigor, I guess. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
a tough
well,
time.
I've always said though, you go through that period of people being professionals and nothing's in general. It's all depends on. Some people are around forever. I mean, shit. Look at Mikey.
Yeah,
Mikey's still a professional. He's 50 years
He had
old.
to have a
sick.
he had a
Like, come on.
rebirth though,
Yeah.
like he was out for a couple years.
But that's pretty rare in
Yeah.
snowboarding because people have kind of almost come back here and there, but then not
Almost, you're
always.
right.
But I've always said so after that pro thing, splitboarding's the first step to becoming like a guide. But not disappearing, but maybe going more deep into your love of the mountain and the connection.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Around that time, were you thinking about that already?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about the guiding thing, but I knew I was passionate about snowboarding, and what I did is I was like, well, this is just like the position I was in 9 years ago. I don't have anything going, but I can get it going again. And so it was like the fake it till you make it kind of thing. And so
Did you have any money to back you up?
there was a little bit of money, and so one of the things, Vans was paying me pretty good at that point.
Sick.
And they were pretty great. They really let me know, basically Vanity Fair bought them. I was doing outerwear. We were about 3 years deep on that, and boots. So it was a pretty good paycheck doing both those things. And so I think when Vanity Fair came in and was trimming the fat, they're like, oh, why is this guy making so much? At least that's how I assume it went down. And, all the other sponsors fell off too, Decon and all that. But I was like, I can get this going again.
Yeah.
Right? Fake it till you make it. So I tried to stay in there.
Fake it till you make it.
And I was selling everything I had, just trying to stay with it. But, we were also kind of getting into split boarding at that time and splitting boards. But, eventually I hooked up with the Levitation Project. We were blasting stuff on Facebook. I also had started a blog. Every time I'd go on these big split board missions, I was posting on this C. Coulter Shred website that I was making
Nice.
with the Mac software. I was just trying to be creative, trying to stay with the changes that were happening. Social media was starting to happen. And I did eventually end up pulling in a contract with Eddie Bauer that was very small compared to, what I was used to. But it was enough encouragement to motivate me to keep going. And those guys were also into the
So maybe
guiding
instead
aspect.
of take it till you make it, show up until you blow up.
Yes. Show up till you blow up.
Yeah.
So this blog, dude, tell us about this blog.
Yeah, it was funny. I
You
wish it
just
was
mic'd
still
yourself
around.
up, or you just wrote about where you
Yeah, I
went?
would just basically go on these splitboard missions. I got this book shooting gallery that's just got all the terrain around here in the Wasatch. And
Sick.
Forrest and I were just missioning, and getting into these different lines. And then,
The book is called Shooting Gallery?
yeah.
And they kind of lay out where you should be going?
All the,
Sick.
anybody who's just getting into it or looking for the next adventure and you're splitboarding around the Wasatch, that's a great, kind of Bible to splitboard adventures.
I've never heard of
around
it.
here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so Forrest and I were checking off a bunch of the lines in there and even starting to realize we needed to learn how to use ropes to get into some of these lines, which kind of led us a little bit into climbing and finding that as a new hobby. And then the Eddie Bauer thing happened and they had a guide team. That was their main thing. And actually I found out about them doing outerwear from one of my guides wearing their gear, and then we did some investigating and there was no snowboarders. So we my friend Wyatt Caldwell and I, legendary snowboarder Wyatt, we were just started pushing that button, well, let's get in here. And it took some time, but we did. And they sent us, right after we signed contracts, they sent us to Alaska with an Airstream, some heli budget. And, so the dream was kind of still
filming
alive.
each other or blogging or
We had
just
some
the two of you?
filmers.
Oh, you had filmers and everything.
Yeah. And but we were just kind of creating content for their brand. And a year later, that led us into, we were both riding Yes snowboards, and so we were able to put some of our footage in there. So the dream was still there, but
Yeah.
it was tough and not
But
coming
this is
together.
all a direct reflection of your stoke and your connection to the mountains.
Yes.
Which is rad, because how many people have we seen, you
They
get
lose
to a
it.
point of that, the sponsors are disappearing and then they say, the inevitable, I hate snowboarding.
Or
I hate
I'm not gonna-
snowboarding sucks. And it's is it the snowboarding or was it the snowboarding business?
Right.
Yeah, that's what
So
it
with
is.
people that tend to come back to the mountains or to the streets or whatever,
Yeah,
but reconnect with that thing,
for sure.
Well, they're so
when
used
you
to
did
making a
that.
certain amount of money too. They're like, I'm not going to go up there unless I'm punching this check, this amount
Yeah,
of
and
money.
that's the thing. Wyatt and I were also spending our own money to do
Yeah.
this too. Yes, we did have some support, but we were in on it as well, and we both just loved it.
You got to have that love.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what took you to the next phase of your life, huh?
Yeah,
And so somewhere in that connection just was just a natural evolution of that with Eddie Bauer, yeah?
yeah, and they were, as I kind of realized that, I think around this time too, it's that's it, that's all had come out, and it was well, this is the level now. I was okay, maybe I'm not on the level anymore, but I'm still passionate about snowboarding. So it's what can I do to stay involved in this and stay on my board and not,
Well, when you were guiding people in that beginning time, would it be pretty common that you'd be shredding the gnarliest lines of the group?
Yeah, maybe in some of my like normal client groups.
Yeah.
But you know, one of my possibly my first, actually I think it was my second season of guiding. You know, a lot of the new guides, they get handed the film crews, and so I got to work with Xavier De La Rue and Sam Untermonten, and you know, getting to ride with those guys was a lesson, like a master skill lesson in navigating big terrain, you know. And it was really cool too, because I had the local knowledge of the terrain from riding with Absinthe, riding with the Levitation crew, so I knew the terrain pretty good. But those guys had the balls to step to the gnarly stuff, you know, and it was really cool working with them, because they would also listen to me. Like if I was feeling uneasy about something, they would be like, yeah, we don't need to do that, let's find something else. And
How do you register that in the big mountains for you? Because I know for me, there was a stage at one point, and maybe it happened with you, but in the streets, for example, when people would, Bodie'd be like, what do you think? Do you think this looks good? Like, no, it looks like you're going to get fucking worked.
There is
You know?
that
But
moment.
when you're guiding people in the big mountains, you know, if the streets are to the pain, the big mountains are to the death.
Death.
And it's like, how do you gauge that when it's like, I don't know, because you don't spend that much time with them or something,
right.
you know?
Yeah, I think this is like when you're working with pros and they've got this talent to deal with situations, the acceptable risk is higher, you know? And then when you're dealing with pros who are experienced in these scenarios, it's even higher, right? But I think it's like kind of listening to your gut, having that season history, kind of knowing how the different storms have come in and seeing that and being patient and waiting for the right moments, you know? And those guys were really good about almost every day starting with something that's a little more chill, unless we were into like high pressure for several days, but they would kind of do a warm-up run and then step it up. And they were really smart about the way they operated and didn't really start getting on the really exposed stuff until we were a couple of days into high pressure. The whole team was building confidence, you know, and there was so many lines that those guys did where they're like, are you coming? And I'm like, not on this one, you know, but I did get to follow them down some really classic runs and even some first
You could
descents.
decide if you were going to go up there with them or not.
Oh, I mean, because my job at that point was to back them up and be their safety.
Yeah,
So
so
if
you
they're
can zoom in real quick if you need to.
so if they're on something that maybe is questionable whether I can navigate down, you know, the safer place for them and me to be was with the aircraft, you know.
Yep. So you could zoom,
And
fly
in
right
that
to them.
situation, I mean, what is the best way to deal with that? If you're even questioning navigating into that situation, is it just all up to the helicopter at that point?
Yeah, I mean, because you figure if something happens, you know, the gravity is going to pull them down, you know. So, and actually, on one line, there's a chute next to a pretty legendary face tomahawk that Xavier did, and he ended up running into some rough snow and took a bad fall. And yeah, it was, I was with the heli, and it was easy to respond to him bottom up. It was really easy to get to him that way, get dropped off close to him, hike up to him.
What would the other option be? To ride down to them?
Yeah, you know, and
But then you might lose them. You have to have eyes, right, the whole time.
And it's logistics, right? So there's all kinds of situations. And so when you start getting people spread out on different faces where you can't respond to each person from one spot, well, you think you got to stay with the heli.
Wow.
If everyone's on one face that you can kind of get to everyone in one spot, then maybe you can ride with them. So it's all situation dependent, really.
Dude, I got a guest question, actually, because we're kind of getting into this topic from Pensiero, and I'm going to play it.
Oh, Pensiero.
I'm going to play it on here.
Snowboard stoke.
You guys going to be ready? You ready? I haven't figured out how to load it in here yet, guys.
All good.
I like this technique right here. Through the tip.
Chris, Jeff from Baldface here. Calling with the question. First, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming to the Risk Maturity a couple of years ago. You are a really well-spoken advocate for safety in the mountains and for everybody taking the time to get the education that we need to keep each other safe. Your sharing of your experiences is inspirational. And you're a really well-spoken guy, so I'm really excited to hear that you're taking the time to do a podcast and share with the listeners. My question is, what steps did you take to make the transition from a pro snowboarder to a professional mountain guide? Specifically, like, how did you get into the avalanche classes, the mountain safety classes, the first aid classes? I don't really know. Like, did you find it through being a firefighter? Did you sign up for classes? Did you go to a school? I think it'd be interesting for our listeners to know the steps that go into becoming a mountain guide in America. Thanks for sharing. I'm really interested and looking forward to your answer. And I hope to see you in Alaska one of these days. Or even better, British Columbia. Woo!
Awesome, Jeff. Thanks so much for that question. Was an honor to be part of that risk maturity course for sure. The split boarding that Forrest and I were getting into. Well, actually, let me backpedal. I got caught in an avalanche in 2007 behind Brighton, and up to that point, I had read books, all the crews I had gone out with. I think we were managing our sessions pretty responsibly, even being smart, like in Grizzly Gulch, jumping into that thing. We would never have more than one. I remember us talking about this, never more than one person at the bottom of the gully at a time. So we were already using really good protocols. But I think I was a little overconfident in my ability to judge snowpack. I even remember a time when Wastel called me off of a line I wanted to do because he was having an intuitive moment about not doing the run. So anyway, 2007, I got caught in an avalanche behind Brighton, and it was a big wake-up call. So that year I took an avalanche class, Rec Avi 1. 2 years later, I did an Avi 2. Just because I think once you're out there walking around and feeling more vulnerable, maybe you're just with one friend instead of this crew. We're starting to ride bigger lines, not just doing cheese wedges and stuff. I really wanted to feel good about the decisions I was making. And so I'd already done some avalanche courses. And in the US, basically, it's a little different than Canada. Canada, there's like this whole path, this guide course that you have to take. You take the Avi courses, then you do the guiding, and they even branch it out into like you're gonna tour, cat ski, heli guide. You can get that specific.
Are they just more organized about like it's a school setting, or
it's just a little more official,
snow minded up there? So they're like they just have their plan, I guess.
Yeah, and so we had the AMGA here.
What's MG?
It's like the American Mountain Guide Association,
okay.
But they're pretty geared specifically towards touring. So anyway, as a guest at SEBA and a guest at Silverton Mountain in Colorado, I was starting to get to know a lot of the guides and getting to this point where I'm looking for another transition. So I was talking with SEBA about maybe working for them, and they were pretty into the idea. And basically back then there was Avi 1, 2, and 3. And the baseline to be a guide in the US was typically an Avi 2, is up to each operation.
And SEBA is a heli-op for everyone listening.
Yeah, in Haines. And so I had that Avi 2 already. And I had done a woofer as well. And so I kind of had the baseline.
Talk to the layman here. What's the woofer?
So that's a wilderness first aid course.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Woofer.
Yeah.
So you're setting yourself up to be quite the badass dude here.
But and so I had done these things not really knowing that that's what you needed, but just thinking that's what you do to be a good backcountry partner,
Yeah. Their lives force when you're out there and back there, the two of you, your lives are in each other's hands, basically.
Exactly.
Do you think the more that you learn, the sketchier it all seems?
Yeah, right? You're seeing more.
Yeah, that's a very good point. 100%. The more I learn about this stuff, the more I see, the more I'm intimidated by it.
Your eyes are wide open to this thing that maybe you were before. You're all ignorant and you didn't. Bliss. Ignorance is bliss.
We may have talked about that before because people say ignorance is bliss, but that means you're actually aware of something to ignore it.
True.
So I think when you're dumb as fuck and you're just clueless, that is bliss.
That's bliss, yeah.
With Xavier and those guys up in Haines, I mean, it seems like one thing that isn't talked about that much is with all these courses, all the best gear, it still comes down to your personal relationship with the area that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, because I remember you were talking years ago about the that slide that happened to that girl or whatever in South America.
Yep.
And talking about that comfort level where it's like, oh, we've been here, we're good, you know. And there's that fine line between having that personal relationship with the zone, but also not being too comfortable.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because I feel like for people, they may not receive that or even understand that because it's like, hey, I took all of these classes you're saying, all these levels of the AVI 1, 2, and 3. I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not combining that with field experience, it's not enough to get you there, right? So you've got your institutional knowledge, and a lot of that's like, how do we communicate what we're seeing in the snow on a professional level? How do we do these tests in a standard way where we can talk about the snow? And
that's like breaking down the snow science, basically.
Yeah,
tests.
and learning how to be observant. That's the big thing, is being observant. Like noticing what's going on in the snow. Are you seeing shooting cracks? Are these things starting to stack up? You know, there's this thing called the 5 red flags that are a huge, easy tool to use. And so you learn all this stuff in the courses, but it's the field time coupled with that, and then coming out of the field and reflecting on your day. Because you can also just go out in the field and not reflect on the day, and then it's harder to learn, you know? But that field time's where you build your intuition, and that kind of, you know, some people might call it a sixth sense, but it's a feel that you develop with your time in the mountains, you know? So, you know, kind of getting back to what Jeff was saying, it's like the time spent in the mountains with Absinthe crew and these different people was helping my intuition to start developing. The courses were giving me the accreditation to be hireable. And then you finally get hired. So that this first season I started guiding, I got hired by Silverton Mountain and by SEBA. And at Silverton Mountain, I got to attend like a proper ski patrol medical training and all the preseason training that we do every year, avalanche rescue stuff. And then also I got to start doing explosive work and delivering explosives to the slope and testing for avalanches. And you come with this prediction of the slope's not going to slide or it's going to slide, how big, and you get to test this, you know? So, and that continues to develop your intuition more. But, you know, it's here in the US, it's all about what the companies want to set their baseline at. And they're really, most of the companies are training their guides, you know? So they really slow rolled me. I didn't start guiding at Silverton till halfway through that first season. I was just following, shadowing, learning.
And that's what they wanted you to do? That was their plan, to slow roll you? Or
Yeah.
were you upset? You wanted to get going? Or do you look back at that and it's the right move that they slow rolled you?
No, I wasn't upset. I mean, honestly, when they cut me loose, you know, and in some ways you're like, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it's one of those
You're never
things.
gonna be
It's
ready.
like, this is the opportunity, you know, and you get out there and you make mistakes, and hopefully they're not ones that harm anyone or put someone in danger, and you learn from them and you get called out. And that's kind of the culture in the US is you're mentored into these positions, and you're kind of, you know, there's run lists that we have, and it's like as a rookie guide, you're limited to certain terrain, and then as you get more experience, you get more options and things like
What
that.
about individuals that may have inspired you? Like, who have you looked to that has led you along this path?
You know, so in Colorado, like Fabio Grasso, Skylar Holgate, you know, they were guys that I rode with. Really, their whole guide team there. And then in Alaska, you know, Reggie Chris, Tom Ways. Pretty much, though, every guide I ever worked with, you know?
Not many pros have made the transition, huh?
Yeah, I think it's starting to happen more. But, you know, I'll say this, as a snowboarder, the first 5 avalanche classes I did, I was the only snowboarder in there. You know, I think it was
Crazy.
just this most recent course I've done that there was other snowboarders in it. So
Starting to expand more to the snowboarders. Yeah, when I think back to every time I've been in a guided scenario, it's always been a skier. And it's awesome. The ones that you stand out to you are pretty rad because they teach you what you're going through, and you can tell they're really passionate, and there's others that are just kind of over it. You can tell. Maybe it's because they're skiers talking to snowboarders.
It depends who you get, because did you ever get up there with Tom Burt as your guide?
Oh,
With
damn.
Alaska Heli Ski?
I never had that opportunity, unfortunately.
Because with TB as your guide, I just remember him being like, "Yeah, this run's a little steep. Gets a little steep in the middle."
That's
And
what
then
Tom
later
Burt's
you're
saying.
like, "That was the gnarliest run of my life." So like having that, like how you gauge your guide, because it's a weird thing. Like, I mean, obviously it could be a lot of macho-ness to it,
Yeah.
you know? And so how do you, like see through that with these people that are truly skilled and, genuinely there, to make the most of the situation,
Yeah, it's a lot of Type A personalities in that world for sure.
How much of the job is like catering to what the client needs as far as like having an entertainment and good time, and because this guy spent a lot of money to come on this?
Well, that's all of it, But,
Yeah.
but
'Cause there's filmers, but then your main thing is like clients
Yeah,
that
how
just
do you
want
see
to rage,
through the
right?
guy that's like, "I've been to Austria.
Yeah.
Well, I
Been to
mean,
Japan."
you definitely like profile people and try to gather information, especially when you're trying to separate people into different groups. But I mean, for me, it's always just watch them on the first run. Watch how they ride. You
Yeah,
know?
is this guy a liability or is
Yeah.
this guy?
Have you had moments where you've had to tell people that no?
Usually when it's that bad, they tell you.
Because they're scared.
Yeah. Well, because they just can't do it. They're
Yeah.
exhausted. We call
Yeah.
them one and dones. They might take a couple hours to get through the first run and ruin half the day, and then you send them back in, and then you continue on with the day. But it's rare, but it happens. I think the last few years we've been seeing a little bit more of that as the resorts have been getting crowded and people are looking for other options and maybe finding themselves in a backcountry type setting a little too early.
Do you think that social media has something to do with that? Just that desire for people to get way ahead of themselves?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because when you see social media, you just see that beautiful moment.
Yeah.
There's no backstory
Yeah.
to this guy's been riding for 20 years and dedicated his life to this, and that's how he can do this.
Or even the day leading up to that shot and that moment, what happened that day and how it all went down.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I remember one guy that I really liked took myself and the filmer aside and was just like, "I'm watching you guys, and just the way you're lugging your backpacks is going to ruin your day, because every movement counts, and you need all the energy you could have in case something really goes down. And you guys with your backpacks on and off, you need to be more efficient. You need to and he kind of set us on a program of don't whip it around and take it off and put it down. Keep it on our back, strap in, and try to have less moments moving it around, because
Right.
if the shit went down, he wanted to make sure we had especially the filmers, they got their tripod is 60 pounds.
If
and-
this shit went down one time, I was like, in that too comfortable moment, and Amber was like, "Vole, I'll ride down halfway down on the spine, and I'll just film you come down."
It's just so
It'll be
comfortable.
mellow. What could happen?
Right.
And I remember standing on the spine and having
The guide let you down there?
My bag's in between my legs, and he just Vole comes and rips the sickest run. And I'm thinking, this is so cool. And as I'm watching him just rip down the mountain, 3, 2, 1, here's the slough.
Oh, no.
And for some reason, I was able to duck dive it, but I just see my bag going down an Alaska line.
Your bag went?
And, later you're just like, what were you thinking? What were we thinking?
Yeah.
Oh, and you didn't have guides because you were there filming, shooting, doing your thing.
I mean, I always think, because when, guides, for example.
The film crews get the rookie guides a lot.
Yeah,
Well,
because
yeah,
they know what they're
but-
doing.
but
They
it's
think, right?
What is the true role of a guide at a certain point?
Yeah.
They're not making the decisions for you.
Right.
They're not riding the run for you.
Yeah.
And you're saying where you want to go because you want to shoot it.
Yeah.
You're
which
like,
goes
we're
back
going
into,
here.
you have those clients that are like, I spent $100,000. I want to do this.
Yeah, what do you
Yeah.
tell them?
Well, and
That Russian that comes in with tons of money.
And so it's a very different situation where you've got a professional film crew that's been coming to Haines for a decade or whatever, and you're the new guide, or you've only got a few years, and these guys have done this a lot, and
Maybe as much as you, some of them, huh?
and when I'm working with athletes or out in the mountains with athletes, I just try to be very careful about shutting something down, because you're dealing with professionals who know how to make decisions. You know? And sometimes we've just got to learn from our mistakes, But it's a very different situation than when you're dealing with like someone who's more pedestrian, out of their element. You're their guardian. You're there to protect them. Yes, you're there to protect the film crews too, but if it's not like this kind of life and death thing, it's like, no, you got to let people do their thing. And,
or else they're not going to get that shot they came for.
And, for a lot of guides that don't have a background in production work, they don't understand. And quite often they're not riding on the level of these film crews.
Well, let me bring up a great example of this. After that first year getting Chris into the Kingpin film, his gift back to say thanks was we went heliboarding at Powder Birds.
Oh, nice.
Which is sick, because Chris is working at Powder Birds now.
Which is
going
props.
full circle. But I'll never forget it because...
You booked you two to go?
Yeah, I mean, it was like an early season opening. I heard about it. They were offering good deals, and I'm just thinking, what can I do? This is a great opportunity for me to get to go ride
Shane
with
right
Shane
in his heart, right there,
with a light backpack.
True.
Because I know,
I
he's got
appreciate
this
it to
great.
this day.
Yeah, he's always had
Great
that
snowboarder.
big pack on and he always rips it and gets his runs in.
But the funniest part was we get to the top of every one of these runs, and I'll never forget, it was with Forrest and Chris and myself, and the guy would just be like, all right, guys, what we're going to do is, 100 turns down to here and stop.
100 turns.
And then, whatever. And
Be careful, it's Finn.
That's
each
how
of
the
us would
skiers
look
do
at each
it,
other
though.
and just bomb. Just bomb the run. And every time, I remember the guy would be like, God damn it.
Full guide's
Don't do
nightmare.
it again.
Don't
do
do
it
it.
again.
Not till next run.
Yeah,
Promise.
We promise. Not until we're on the top of the next one.
I can just imagine. That guy probably couldn't even keep up with you guys either.
He was losing it.
Dude, that's so sick. I can just picture that happening.
Yeah,
That is
good
really
times.
funny.
Really good
That's
times.
really cool that you did that, though, to get Shane a little thank you.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, I owe him so much more than that, but like it's,
But
I
it's
think
those
it's
things
nice.
that mean so much in the long run.
A day like
Because
that.
I think that's one thing many people don't realize is so much of what we get to do is awesome, but it's not like we're going on these vacations,
No.
Like you were saying, those years of building up, the 9 years of that professional snowboarding, it's like you weren't just going on this trip to go rip some runs,
Yeah.
And so that's what I was going to ask you with the guiding thing. Is that finding the harmony between the riding and the helping, sharing?
Yeah. I think it's early on, it was important for me to go out and get these days not guiding and still like kind of get some and get mine so that I could show up for these guests that aren't ready for the steeper runs and things like that, and really be there for them and deliver them the appropriate run for their skill set and be sure they're having the best day of their life. But I'll definitely say they also show me that I don't need this scary run to have the best day of my life. I might do a run that I've done several times and I'm bored with it, and then they come down with the biggest smile you've ever seen, best run of my life, this is amazing. And they really helped me to realize this is amazing that I get to be here right now and I just got to ride down that run. It doesn't have to be this full adrenaline tap, and honestly, you can't live there all day anyway. It's just it's not healthy to be in that full adrenaline state all the time.
Yeah. Do you still feel moments where you're like, all right, maybe I want to come back to this sometime? Like if you see something gnarly, whether it's a gnarly run or some jump or something, and you're like,
oh, for sure. Yeah. You see those runs where you're like, oh, with the right group, we could get on that. Or, with the Silverton op, we double guide up in Alaska. So, occasionally you can, if you don't have the right group to get on the steeper runs, maybe the tail guide can get out on something a little more fun for themselves, and get that little moment.
Nice.
That tail guide's the one on cleanup?
Yeah. Once everyone's down and safe at the bottom, you might bite on something a little more aggressive. Or
And then does someone go, when you're out with a crew, you guys go first. When you're with just the layman, do one of you guys go first to test it out?
Yeah. And again, it's all situational dependent. sometimes if I've got a group and I've got another guide that opened the run ahead of me and it's real obvious and you've got really trustworthy guests, maybe people you've ridden with a bunch, I love sending people first if it's appropriate.
Let them have it because you know it's cool. It's a good day.
Well, and then I can come down last because, if something happens, even something like a skier losing a ski or someone twisting a knee, you're way more helpful coming from the top down to them.
Yeah, otherwise you can't.
Otherwise,
you
The
gotta
tail
get up
guide
there.
is probably the more experienced person, right?
Well, often the lead is the more experienced, but they say, though, the tail guide is the one that deals with the most.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're the one in the back.
You're
on
hoping
cleanup.
that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Or you're helping the person who's having the hardest time. You're back there, like really putting in work, getting them there.
Yeah.
What? So there's two guides always.
With our Silverton, Alaska operation, that's how we roll. Which is
That takes away from your heli seats, right?
we do a double front and then 4 guests, and that was one of the reasons.
What do you mean a double front?
So two you got your pilot and 2 passengers.
Oh,
in front.
got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we got
So 4 guests, 2 guides, and a pilot.
yeah.
Boom.
So that's a nice situation, knowing you've got someone that you've spent your whole season training with.
What about
backing
if
up.
you guys go to places that you've never been? Like, how do you address that? Like, to guide in a place you've never been either.
Yeah, so on-sighting, I mean, in an alpine environment in Alaska, it's quite a bit more manageable because it's like you're going to start at the top and you're going to go all the way down, But I've been in situations where I was guiding in Japan and didn't have that local knowledge. That really is a huge thing of what makes a great guide a guide is that local knowledge. So studying your maps, pulling out your map mid-run, it's way more stressful to on-site guide, So
And how's that work? Someone just hits you up and they're like, we need a guide. You're not there, but
my buddy had
call you in.
had a operation that he runs out there, and I just got to go work for him out
Sick.
there for a couple months, and he gave me like a couple of days of like general, this is this and this is that, but you end up you can't cover it all. And
Well, that's why I ask you, because, I mean, if someone was to even show up randomly, like they're in New Jersey, like, hey, I'm a guide, and then we're going to Brighton, we're
Right.
going to Snowbird, and you show up there and you've never been there?
Yeah.
I mean,
It'll be
you're
a tough
lost.
one.
You have no idea where you're going.
yeah.
And then you take that, and then you're in extremely more steep, dangerous environments, and it's just such an interesting thing. Like
Yeah.
South America, for example. I mean, when you guys are going down there, do you know these spots? Do you explore them before you take out the people?
Yeah, so like our sled chili operation, we always go down at least a week or 2 early, get our head in the snow, maybe try to find some new zones, and then we tend to stay afterwards as well and do the same thing and explore and learn more terrain. And especially as people are figuring out what we're doing, as more people are getting snowmobiles down there and pushing into our classic terrain, we've got to start opening the next piece, and stay ahead of it. So I think that's a lot of guide operations do that. I'm just took a new job with Powderbird this year, and this is going to be a huge learning curve for me. They're definitely going to slow roll me. It's going to take time. I would say you don't want to probably come and ask to ride with me this season. You want to ride with someone who's been working there for 30 years and knows the terrain intimately and is going to get you into those great runs. And
Is that guy gonna know like what the snowboarder wants though? Like what
I
the
think they probably do a pretty good
like
job.
if Shane was
about-
going, would he know what Shane wants?
Yeah, and some of their guides are snowboarders or used to snowboard and stuff. And I think a really good guide is going to be conscious of that and
Yeah.
try to like set traverses and things that are like gravity fed, and
Bring you somewhere where you can just get some wicked
sure.
slashes, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be what a snowboarder
Yeah.
might be
They're-
thinking about.
They're there for you. They want to serve you a good day.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed the guides shooting the shit with them because they all are such interesting people. And a lot of times you're on these film crew shoots, and a lot of the guys I don't think talk to the guides as much, and so when you do, they get kind of stoked.
Well, I always think that the guides that get the film crews are so bummed
Yeah, true.
because
huh?
they're like, damn, these dudes are taking forever.
Oh, true,
to
right?
Film this run.
It moves a little slower, but maybe they're going to get that sweet shot of themselves.
Yeah, there's always that.
something,
Dude,
you
there's
know,
always
but
that
As
guy
opposed
that
to
wants that
one-
shot.
But like you take that client group out and you're just like scoring so many runs back
Yeah.
to back. I mean,
What's the
depends on
average
day.
skill level of people coming through?
it really varies, but I think especially with the heli skiing, there's a high price point on it. So a lot of these people aren't necessarily, spending their days in the week being athletic. Maybe they're earning money and working a job. So a lot of them are barely fit for the bill. It's all over the place. But the last few years, I've been seeing more and more people show up where it's like, you really got to finesse it to get them through the full day and things like that. But a lot of those people appreciate it so much, and they have this like lifetime experience, But I would say on any given day, we get super rippers. Like let's say you've got 4 or 5 groups showing up. You're going to have probably that super ripping group. You're going to have a couple that are right in the middle, and then a couple that are barely going to pull it off. And the last few years, it's like,
is there some people that don't pull it off?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The one and dones, they show up.
One and done. They do one run.
One run.
One heli lap. And that's like, that was dope. I'm out.
Yeah. And I've even seen some where we got to like pull some shenanigans to kind of get them the second half of the way down the run,
What kind of shenanigans are we pulling?
I mean, whether it's sitting them on the board or...
Oh, you doing that?
Just walking them through it. Like, all right. And you see them struggling to get up out of the powder.
And they're wasting
their
that energy.
And you come up on them and you're like, just relax, rest.
Don't waste
your
energy.
energy here. I'm going to show you some tricks. We're going to get you up. Okay, we're going to turn the board downhill, and you're going to point it for as long as you can. Then you're going to crash again. Don't try to get up. Just rest.
Damn.
That's amazing.
Because it's all about moving them point A to point B, keep them safe, and let them rest.
The funny part about it is resort boarding is so fun that when people aren't ready because of whatever ego moment or whatever it is, it's just interesting because, like, I don't know, that maybe it's not seen as so cool to be like all about the resorts these days, but there's so many fun resorts to go shred.
Oh yeah.
And before putting you and everyone else into that situation of literally walking them down like a giant
because that's the
mountain
thing
lion.
too, right? Like you're like, especially working down in Colorado, the places where you can do a heli run down, that's probably an avalanche path because and especially if you're not a real great rider, the other option is the trees, which tend to be tight, tend to have downfall, dangerous. So that's like more of an advanced intermediate to get them into the trees. So now you've got someone who can't really ride and they're falling in the middle of this avalanche path, and you kind of have to go and help them. And now we're breaking one of the first rules, right? One person on the slope at a time. Yeah. So it is also kind of, in some ways not cool to be there when you're not ready. Even though I know people are just looking for this experience, but you don't know what you don't know. Often those people, like I said, they eat that humble pie and they're like, I need to go in. I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's where being clueless as hell is bliss.
Right.
But not for everyone else. Like a year ago, we were up in one of those unnamed snowmobile spots in Utah, and as someone's about to drop to hit a line at one of the lakes that we go to, we just hear this yelling, and we're like, what's going on? And above us, some dad had dropped off his kid on skis, and the skis fell off, and they're flying down the hill. But, it's like, and the kid's screaming, Dad, and all this stuff. And we're like,
what is going on?
What is going on?
And you're in the backcountry?
We're in the backcountry.
Deep in the backcountry.
Little buddy's dad just put him out there, but it made me upset because it's like, man, like you said, if you're going down these things and you can't bomb it even on a groomed run at the resort, what do you expect's going to happen when the rug gets pulled out? Whatever. I mean, this kid was like 12 years old with his dad.
Right.
And I just remember thinking, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to put them down or make them feel bad. We're here to have fun.
Yeah.
But it's like, come on.
Yeah.
And you must see that so much. But when that happens, I was curious, like, are they just packing and like going home after that? That's it? They lose their
often
deposit?
there's no refund. I mean, I guess every operation's probably got their own procedures with that, but in Colorado, there's no refund because you weren't fit for the bill. I mean, if you look at the website, all the warnings are there.
When they're checking people in, do they talk about it or?
Yeah, and we give a safety talk that's really scary. And that's one that baffles me because when they book the trip, the office profiles them, right? And then we give a safety talk that's pretty full on and scary. And it's like, if you can get through those steps and you still don't understand.
Yeah. Well, because for the other clients even, how bummed are you if you're spending all this time as they're waiting for you to walk someone down?
Oh, because it's not always a 4 group. It could be like
Yeah,
2
it
and
could be
2 or.
2 and
Well,
2.
and like we've been using a 205 in Colorado. So it's actually one guide, 8 clients.
Oh, wow.
And so that becomes a whole nother like,
So one person could
And you're
ruin
affecting
a
everyone
lot of
else's
people's
good
days.
you know, a big part of guiding is just like psychology and dealing with people. And how do you deal with the mixed group, you know?
All the personalities.
You know, all the personalities and the different ability levels. The guy that came to rip it and jump every cliff you can find for him, and then the guy that can barely turn, you know, and then sometimes you have to start using some of your more advanced guests to help the less
And they'll do
experienced
that.
ones. I mean,
They'll
it's-
get in on it. They'll be like, all right, I got this.
yeah, I mean, because, you know, someone who's done it a lot, they understand.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, most people are pretty compassionate. You
Yeah.
know?
Dude.
Yeah, most people are rooting everyone on. And that's
But
kind
it
of the
costs a
idea.
lot of money, so some people must
Yeah.
be like, hey. But you can probably try to make sure you're putting that advanced group of people all together, huh? When you know.
Well, we try to
they're
do our
coming.
best about getting that sorted out and sometimes making midday shifts, you know, and it's not always possible. But I think a lot of this stuff we're talking about, though.
You got them on sleds too, right?
Well, yeah, in our core terrain, we've done that, and we call that a courtesy ride, you know. But these kind of things, they start to wear on you when you deal with this day after
I
day.
bet.
You know, people not understanding this environment they're in, you know, and I think over time it really wears you out, you know, and you're on people's vacation and then you have a drink with them at the end of the day, and then sometimes that turns into a few, and then you start maybe dealing with some of these stresses in the wrong way, you know, numbing yourself and things like that. And so this is something I've really, after doing this the last 11 years, I'm starting to learn how to better take care of myself.
So you mean like having way too many drinks with the client after, basically?
Yeah, you know, and maybe it starts with the clients, and then it turns into more with the guides, and then next thing you know, you're out at the bar, and then you get up early and you don't feel as good as you should, and you quickly recognize that that's not good.
Yeah.
You know,
So you're over drinking to make you like those shitty clients better.
well, not to like them, but I think sometimes what I've discovered about myself is that instead of dealing with these stresses, these like stress injuries, instead of processing them properly, sometimes it's easier to numb yourself up. Mm-hmm. You know,
Well, isn't that what the whole history of being in Alaska was for a long time? I feel like, you know, what do you do on the days off?
And you guys had a lot of days off.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it rains for 8 days in a row.
yeah.
You know, and that's another thing, you know, for all these people, if there are a lot more people showing up that are maybe not being honest to themselves of where they're at, how are they also dealing with those environments where, like we know, I mean, a lot of down days can get the best of them.
Yeah.
You know? Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean,
What is the healthy way?
yeah, you know, day guiding, and that's a whole nother thing, right? That I've seen, and it's like, yeah, when you see that you've got these clients that are day drinking, it's like, no, let's find an activity for you guys, because I want you guys to be performing when you're out skiing. I've seen people.
So if it's an off day, they're basically like, let's do this.
Yeah, and I think to a degree they're
Yeah.
on vacation responsibly.
They spend a lot of
all
money
good
to be there.
But there's a line that gets crossed where when you watch someone, first day of the trip, they're riding pretty good. Second day, they're doing pretty good. Then we hit a bunch of down days. All of a sudden, third on-hill day, they're not performing as good as they were the
You're
second
noticing
day.
that.
You know, and it's like, what's going on here? You should be building. You should be getting a little better every day, especially when we just had some rest days. So I think I've recognized that in some groups, and then you start to just, oh no, let's go to the animal park, or let's go down to the dock, or, you know, let's find some activities that are healthy and maybe keep them from drinking till closer to dinner time and just a few drinks, you know, and it's all part of the guiding. You're trying to help them have a good experience, trying to help them progress. You know, I was thinking about you talking about the guide helping you with your backpack. You
Yeah.
know? Guiding is coaching, and coaching is guiding, right? So a big part of what we're doing is trying to help people progress as well as get that good run. But these people that come back season after season, we can really build momentum and help them progress. Little things like how how to strap into your board better, how to strap into your board without sitting down.
Yeah, that
know?
too, and it stuck with me. The backpack thing, that it stuck in my mind for years and years about wasting that energy, and how that guy explained that to me and how important it
I
was.
used to just unclip my backpack for every run. So if the shit goes down,
Nice,
outta here.
You're out.
Yeah, because you don't want the angry midget on
no.
in an avalanche.
That
No
thing's
way.
gonna-
I used
yeah.
to think about that all the time. Like,
Just
okay,
whip-
we're gonna loosen
whip
it up
you
a
around.
little bit. You know, all the things are loose.
Yeah.
You don't want to be stuck in that.
No,
No way.
do you find any clients that are trying to bring that day drinking up to the scenario? Are they bringing alcohol up?
Yeah, I've seen people break out beers in the field and stuff, and
Or even like those guys who have little, I don't know what they're,
Flask.
flasks, because that seems common.
and a big one was I was working in Colorado when marijuana went recreational there.
Yes.
And that next few seasons, the amount that people are smoking on the chair, smoking in the lift lines, wanting to smoke at the bus stops. And, it's all good, but same thing. Noticing with guests, all of a sudden they're not following directions very well. I said, we need to go left down here, and all of a sudden you guys are way off to the right. And,
Not realizing how serious things can get.
and calling people out on that. Like, okay, guys, like maybe no more smoking the rest of the day.
You'll say that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's because they're affecting everyone's safety when they can't follow directions,
How do you think the best way is to deal with that? Because a few winters ago, I had family out. I took them up snowmobiling up at Guardsman. And I remember I just, it'd be like, okay, to my niece, just stay here on this snowmobile. I got to go get her out of the ditch. And then like, as you're getting into the ditch, you see them disappear.
You see them disappear,
that way, and you're
crawling
like,
out of their area.
Oh man, like we're family and we can't even communicate
Yeah.
this.
Herding cats.
It made me think, like, how do you deal with strangers where that herding cat scenario is so real? Because they're like, hey, you just stay here. I got to deal with him.
And you're like,
and then, damn it, they're
like,
disappearing
squirrel.
over the freaking
Yeah, so communication is crazy, and especially when you start getting more and more people involved. So, a few tricks I've learned was it's different with family, but like new group. I'm trying to learn people's names. That's a big one right off the bat.
Huge, yeah.
So if someone starts going off, it's not, hey, dude. It's like, Bill, where are you going? Learning the names. And then when I'm describing the run, sometimes it's more about what you don't say than what you do say, or not saying too much, right? Because when you say too much, it just starts to turn into nothing. Right?
Yeah.
So careful with what you're saying. And then often within the first run or two, you'll see someone kind of in the back of the group. They're fiddling with some gear. They're kind of half paying attention. So you can be like, okay, Brian, so what was the one key detail on this run that I just described? And he wasn't listening. Everyone else in the group knows, but Brian wasn't listening. And everyone's like, oh, dude, we're not going to get to go do any good runs if we're not paying attention, So there's little tricks you learn, I think, to be sure that the communication's happening. I've learned anytime I'm going to send someone first, I ask for what I'm hoping for, and then I always have them tell me their plan. Because quite often, we find the breakdown right there.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm going to do this and that, and I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to stop over by that group of trees. And it's like, oh, that's the wrong group of trees, or whatever.
Dude, it's so hard to line that up sometimes.
It's really tough guiding from behind, but I like doing that because it sets you up
They
for
create
success.
a self-talk in themselves.
Yeah, and we all have a bit of monkey mind, some of us more than others. And so, someone says something,
Monkey mind.
but they're hearing something different.
Yeah, dude, I realized lately I've just had like gnarly ADD my whole life.
Oh, yeah.
And
Me too.
And that's in school. Like I mentioned it to my wife recently, dude, as much as I want to learn something, the second it starts getting into someone really lecturing, I'm somewhere else, even though I'm really excited about what they're talking about.
Right.
And I'll be like, no, wait, dude, I got to pay attention. And no matter how hard I try, it's like out the window. And I guess, how do you deal with that when you get someone like that in there that's just
Well,
not
I have a
paying
personal
attention?
trick for that, and I don't remember where I learned this, but when I start to feel my monkey mind engage and I'm trying to follow something, is I go into one body part, like go into my finger or my toe a little bit, and that helps me kind of stay with the conversation.
Bring you more present, basically,
Yeah.
than zipping off into your
Yeah.
head's like thinking about what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
And then another thing I've been deploying
That's
with
interesting. I like
guiding
that.
is radios. you know? Try to get at least a couple of radios in the group, if not on everyone.
That's not. I thought that would be mandatory.
Some ops it
With-
is.
Yeah.
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 Well, it seems first of all, people are really lucky to have you be teaching them anything.
Yeah.
And to be able to translate it and be aware that we can all tell each other something, but we need to develop self-talk. So that way, no matter what you're saying, that you're not thinking to yourself, I'm just so badass, I'm just going to go 100.
Whatever that guy's saying.
Whatever. Like, screw that guy. As much as we were laughing about that with the Wasatch.
Yeah.
Powderburst
we
guys.
were
Yeah.
like the worst clients, but we had a fun day.
Yeah. But that was also something that was way. Anybody with ADHD, it's like, yeah, you're lecturing me, but the moment you decide and you're there,
that's when you pick it up and grab it.
You're there.
Well, and I found for me, it's the classroom setting that kills me. But when I'm out doing something, that's when any kind of learning is going to settle in. Like with computer stuff, even if I sat in a class, I would just be like gone. But if I sit and do it, I'll learn whatever.
Well,
so it's
'cause we're
just
all-
figuring yourself out. I
We've all
guess.
learned from doing.
Yeah.
I mean, how long of a class could you be in that was like teaching you how to ride a bike until you're finally
Until you're like, all
ride
right,
the
let's
fucking
jump on the
bike."
goddamn bike.
Yeah, like stop talking about riding the bike. Let's ride the bike.
Yeah,
That's where that field time, that real life experience, you know?
That's what gets you there, huh?
Speaking of bikes, though, did you guys get into his?
We haven't. That's on our list, though.
Okay, just curious.
That I didn't know anything about
bike
it too
time.
until I went on there and checked it out. I've really been enjoying this Ask a Guide. I've always had so many questions. But one thing about you, dude, that's kind of psycho is you're like year round for many years, huh?
Yeah, so
Is that typical for guys?
yeah, I mean, a lot of guys will do like whitewater rafting,
Oh damn!
you know, or, you
Are
know.
you guys are just like high level adventure thrill seekers. It just never. You need more.
I think it's that, and it's the seasonal work. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you got to fill in those gaps. You can't just work in the winter and then take the whole summer off.
Oh,
so,
it comes to cash too. Huh?
so yeah, you got to make a living, and you know, so a lot of guys have more professional careers, like maybe real estate, or maybe they're paramedic,
I'm a dentist
or
in the off seasons.
things like that. But yeah, so you know, the Southern Hemisphere thing started for me kind of randomly. Jared Winkler and I befriended these Aussies when we first started riding together, and they called us. It was the first year I was here in Utah, and that summer I had randomly gone back to New Mexico, and Jared and I got an invite to come down as coaches in Australia, and all we had to do is cover our plane ticket, and we had a job, place to live, and we bid on it. We were like, yeah, we're going.
That's sick.
And so that kind of started my Southern Hemisphere work. And so I got to work down there, I think like 3 seasons as a coach. Jared and I did. The second season, we got to bring down more friends and develop that program. We were sponsored by an alcohol company down there that sent us around to do competitions, and we would take the kids also to do like junior competitions. It was an amazing experience.
It's crazy down there, man. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of lawless and exciting.
Yeah, and we were, you know, we weren't 21, so we could drink too.
Yeah.
So that was
Wow.
like wild. Actually, the funny thing is, my dad lent me $1,000 to go down the first year because I had no money. Was able to, I luckily won a contest, wired him back that money within a few weeks of being down there.
From contest winnings.
Yeah,
Woo.
which was awesome. And then, so we were sponsored by an alcohol company that paid for us to go to the events and threw a party at every contest. So mandatory party every contest. And then we had the 15% rule, not 10% rule,
15.
15% rule on the bar. So we were partying that year.
Yeah.
Love that.
And this team we were with, I mean, we had Finns, skiers, boarders, lifelong relationships made down there. And every event, one of us won. So lots of partying.
Sick.
My dad picks me up from that trip like 3 months later, and the first thing he says, he's like, "You got fat." Nice to see you too, Dad.
Yeah.
Oh, so good times for sure, and
Straight to
trying
it.
to live snowboard, live like the whiskey guys. We thought we had it figured out.
I got a guest question from Patreon member. And Patreon, thank you so much, man. You guys have been just crucial for me getting this going, and I really appreciate it. And this is from Nicholas Valeri, and he says, tell us about sled chili and follow up. Why is it so hard to find a green vegetable in that country? I heard you hooked it up for a bunch of Texas boys with double portions after they had to ask you about it. But what's going on? And maybe that's why you were just drinking beer and not eating meat, and maybe that's why you put on some weight.
So
Is
yeah,
there no vegetables?
I mean, it started in Australia, right? And actually, maybe a lot of meat pies down there too.
Oh, those meat pies, dude. Those are really
delicious.
good.
Really good.
Yeah, like this whole Southern Hemisphere thing continued, into actually going to Argentina with Shane for my first trip, and that kind of
That's like
Those
the
guys
meat.
are awesome.
That's the
No.
meat country down there, though. Argentina.
Oh
It's
man,
like,
I
it's all about
gave
it.
a guy a old Tech 9 jacket for hamburguesas for life.
Really? For life.
I'm hoping that one day we go back. I got hamburgers.
that was probably a target.
Things get rough. Shane's gonna just go down there and live off the hamburgers.
Yeah, so we're down there, and I run into Skylar, who is like a friend from Silverton.
Holgate?
Yeah, Skylar Holgate, and I see him down there, and it was a struggle. It didn't snow a lot for us while we're there on that trip. The last 2 days after being there for like over a month, we got a bunch of snow. I think got finally some powder shots. Marco got some other shots creatively while we were there, but it was a struggle. It was icy. But I met Skylar, and then the next year I was down there with Vans, and at that point I think I knew that things were coming to an end, and I hung out and stuck around with Skylar and started learning more about this guiding stuff, right? And this is before I started working at Silverton, a few years before. And so that next year I did lose my Vans thing. I asked Skylar for a job. The SAS guys hired me. And that was the beginning of this next phase of Southern Hemisphere trips. And I did about a decade there with SAS. And then Skylar and I started going over to Chile. We originally went over to look at about starting maybe a heli ski operation with some buddies. They invited us over to look at the terrain. And we flew the terrain, and then we started snowmobiling with them there, and we kind of realized we can snowmobile to most of this stuff. Let's do snowmobiling,
Wow.
less down days, less
More
cost,
accessible. Yeah, more accessible for people.
and it's just a different way to get on the snow and change things up. And so we started the sled chili operation, and it did a few different things. But anyway, Cesar, our friend that owns it, he's not the biggest fan of vegetables. He loves steak.
The owner just steak
So
every night.
it's been a slow process to get salad at the dinners and stuff, but we all just live on this compound together. We eat breakfast, lunch, dinner together. Lunch is in the field. Hot lunch out of the hot doggers on the sleds.
Oh, nice.
We do a big
This is
asado
just
at the end of the trip.
asado.
Yeah, a big asado at the end of the trip, but meat is the base of every meal. It's amazing. It's a cool experience.
You got to
but-
pack in your own veggies,
but
basically,
it's
if
not
you're coming in there.
quite as hard as Argentina for the veggies, but yeah, it's if you're coming to ride with us at Sled Chili, definitely let us know if you want veggies. 'Cause
It's hard.
It's some
Dude,
advanced.
is that what that's
Bring your
called
own
at
veggies.
the
Yeah.
at the end of the thing? What's it called? Where you have that big meal where they cook it up? Is that what
Yeah,
you're talking about?
asado. It's like
I-
barbecue.
I
Yeah.
had that going when I went. Fuck, where was he? I don't even know where I was. Chile or something. And the ski resort crew was putting it together, and it was all time, dude. They had some quite the. It was like a big just thing of.
Well,
meats.
it's the whole cow, right?
Is that was
Is
the is
what
that the
asado
deal?
is? Like
Yeah, I mean,
the
it's,
whole
they,
cow-
they
was
cut,
crazy.
they
part
cut
of
the
it?
cow a little different, and they cook like large portions of it
Yeah.
at a time slowly.
Yeah, it was the
And
whole
it is
ski resort
so
crew,
good.
and it was
So
it was
good.
insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's next level
Yeah.
steak, But
Throw
it's
a
funny.
couple veggies in there.
I
That's
think was that Nick that asked that question?
Yeah.
I think he was alluding to something kind of funny. So some of our friends that were coming down to ride with us.
I asked you with M Joyce.
Yeah, we get this text like, any chance you guys can hook us up with some veggies? And
And it was the eggplant.
and it was code actually. They were looking for
Yeah.
marijuana.
oh, nice,
But
dude.
but
for some avocados.
But it was funny because
You were like,
Skylar
"Oh,
and I
figure out
were
the
like, we
veggies."
both got the text and we're like, did you get the text that they want veggies? Like, is one of them a vegetarian? We didn't get the code.
Yeah.
So we actually just got them a lot of veggies.
Oh, God, we got you. We got you. Don't worry, man.
dude,
We got
We're
it.
like,
All
yeah,
that.
thumbs up. Yeah, dude, we
the
got
best
you.
veggies.
And they were looking for a different kind of veggie.
Yeah.
That's
Dude,
amazing.
that's dope.
Eat your veggies.
I guess before we get into this tour of moto, 2014, brutal year for the kid.
Yeah, so 2014 was a struggle of a year. You know, I was on scene working with another guide who had a private group. I was running sweep behind him, and we were just heading out into the range right after a pretty big storm cycle, and had ridden a couple of runs a little lower on this shoulder, and then he was moving up. You know, he had a lot of experience in Valdez and was kind of newer to the Haines range. I had a few years in Haines, but I was mostly just cranking out film crews. So I wasn't super familiar with like our normal client circuits.
Did they put you on film crews because that's your background?
I think that, and like I said, the newer guides kind of get the film crews, and I really enjoyed the film crew thing, and I think I worked well with the film crews with my background, so I wasn't fighting against that. I was really leaning into that and enjoying it. But so anyway, I got this opportunity to do more of a client circuit with my friend Aaron Caritis, and so he was kind of working his way up this ridge. We're getting into our third run of the day. The other client circuits were just getting ready to come out. And he had dug a pit, had good results, you know, and I'm flying in above him. He's kind of radioing in those results. And he takes kind of his initial turn into the run as I'm landing just on the ridge above him, unload the basket and whatnot. And I'm not going to go fully into this because we could spend an hour on this, but just little bit of backstory to it. So he opens this run. There is a weak layer lower in the snowpack that wasn't there in his snow pit, you know, that we were able to determine after this accident happened. So he had done a good snow pit, good results, found a weak layer, sets off a massive size 3 avalanche. I get my group unloaded and send the heli away and notice that his group is stressed. So I immediately bombed down to them. We had done a lot of training with these guys the day before. So I start going into rescue mode, calling into the base. They're sending, they had a ship loaded. They're unloading full clients, full guide ship coming out. We do the best response we can do. You know, the level that these clients were at was pretty average, but we had done a lot of training with them, and they definitely rose to the occasion on that. And so we had about a 15-minute response time. Aaron was way to the left of where his fall line was on the very edge of the avalanche. He was probably fighting super hard and almost got out of it. But anyway, we weren't, you know, we got him out. We got into CPR, and ultimately he was brain dead, you know, so he didn't survive.
He was out too long. He was under for too long.
He was just under for too long, too much asphyxiation and packed with snow and stuff. So brutal experience for me, and a moment where you really like question your decisions, how you handled things. It's always easy to go back and talk about how you do stuff different. And I've given some talks on this accident and review how, you know, things I could maybe do different and stuff. And so that was brutal, you know, and then again, I could go into, it's a whole thing you could spend an hour on.
And that's just something that is done, huh? You look back at these things and try to learn from them, huh?
Yep.
Anytime there's an avalanche, right? Just like,
yeah,
what could we do?
And you try to share this information. There's reports on it. And so in the industry, we just try to learn from our mistakes and get better,
But
right?
the toll this must have taken on you.
It was brutal. I mean, it was
To be on scene.
really brutal. And I consider myself someone who can deal with a lot, you know, but that's a lot.
It's a lot, man.
It's a lot to deal with. And especially being like kind of the first guy there that's orchestrating the initial phase of all that. It beat me down pretty good.
It's not only being there, but you're also like part of the whole situation as like, what are we going to do? You're the guy that came in first.
Right.
So that's heavy, huh?
So fast forward, not to give that the credit it deserves. It's just it would take
Yeah.
over an hour.
Yeah, sorry you had to deal with that, dude. That's
6 months
it's
later,
heavy.
that was like mid-March, late September, I'm in Argentina and on a kind of an expedition with pretty much everyone on the trip's guides, professional cinematographers and big mountain photographers, that kind of thing. I'm there for another accident. Good friend Liz Daly gets it caught in an avalanche, gets swept off a massive cliff, you know, same kind of thing, responding, CPR, you know, I did CPR on both my friends here. And it was just a brutalizing
You were the
year.
first guy there again. First guy.
I was the first one to get to Liz.
Fuck.
Again. Well, yeah, anyway, and just brutal, you know? And it really beat me up, and I started having like thoughts of like, maybe this stuff isn't for me, you know? But right away I went to like an avalanche workshop in Colorado and connected with a bunch of my coworkers from Silverton and, you know, and just started getting to my people and getting to a place where I'm like, okay, I can keep doing this. It's not that I've screwed up. But I've been through a lot, you know, and so I kind of have touched on it a little bit, but like, I think as a guide, sometimes we deal with these little traumas as a patroller, as someone who's up at sunrise and delivering explosives to the slope, and then dealing with clients who don't understand the risk, and then being on scene for some of these things and having to do CPR on your friend. All this stuff starts to add up after a while. And if you haven't done a good job of processing it, I think it's pretty easy to start numbing yourself and not recognizing that you're in pain and you've got stuff to deal with. And so I think I thought I was doing better with a lot of that stuff than I really was for a long time. And I hit these situations where I never used to drink by myself, and I would find myself sometimes drinking alone and drinking too much, you know, and then kind of waking up in the morning and going, huh, and then starting to see that happen a few too many times. And this wouldn't happen when I'm working. This kind of stuff was happening when I had idle time, when I was not working.
That's when it catches up to you.
And not needing to show up. And then when I didn't need to show up, I wasn't being present with myself and dealing with the stuff I needed to deal with, you know? And so it's something I've really started to figure out over the last handful of years, and I've really been trying to be better about that and staying more.
How do you transition? Obviously, acknowledging it, but then what
Talking
steps
about
would
it,
you
right?
take, you know, to evolve past that?
Yeah, I think the biggest step was recognizing it, right? Like going, okay, you've got some work to do. Talking about it, getting to go to Baldface and do that risk maturity course with Jeff Pinciero and Pat Moore.
Have you talked to a professional?
I have a few friends who are psychologists that I've talked to it about, but I haven't done it formally. And that's actually something that I'm probably going to get to do this year.
Just break into it, go over it.
Powderbird.
Yeah, because it's gonna happen again.
It's brutal reality. At the same time, it never will go away.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not like it's one of those things like brushing your teeth. You won't just do it once and it'll be done forever.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's a big part of the process has been like talking about it. And over the years I've had opportunities to do that, and then I kind of stopped because it was like less relevant. It was older, and then getting to go to the thing at Baldface when I hadn't talked about it in years. That's when I started to recognize you haven't dealt with this enough.
Yeah.
You know, and I was seeing other little things when I would talk about friendships and relationships that I've made. I was getting like this crazy like pressure in my head and really emotional about stuff that I shouldn't be getting emotional about. And that was also another clue, like you still have work to do, you know? And, but I think a big thing is just been really putting a check on any of the drinking and stuff and drawing a line with like, how intoxicated can you get, you know? A couple drinks is fun, and then at a certain point, it's like unnecessary,
Well, if you're at home blacking out on your own, that's
Yeah.
a step where you should talk about it. because
Yeah.
Once
that's-
again,
you
acknowledging
got to get it in check.
real trauma is, everyone is dealing with something, but truly witnessing friends not make it
Especially
in
right in front of you.
situations that are supposed to be the best time of your life
Yeah.
is real.
Yeah.
Absolutely real. And it's so cool that you can still be here to share that with others, because I'm sure so many people have gone through stuff like that. I mean, the longer we live, the more we're going to see other people not live,
Right.
But we're not here to focus on that, because if that was the point, why would we even do anything, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we got to keep living. That's what I know. That was a tool I used to keep going. It's like, I know Aaron and Liz, I know what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to keep doing this stuff, This was one of the first seasons during our medical refresher. We always practice CPR. This was one of the first seasons where practicing that, I wasn't getting like flashbacks and things like that. So like you said, it's a never ending process, but I'm starting to feel quite a bit more mentally healthy.
And the body holds the stress of loss in, and it comes out in pain, like you're talking about. It can be back pain, it can be headaches. So that's why the more you talk about it, it processes it and releases it.
And it's interesting.
Crazy how that all works.
Years ago, when you say about going to Baldface and having kind of a breakthrough in what you were doing and sharing it and letting it out, years ago, Hosnick had this book, Shambhala, which is funny because up in Nelson, there's the Shambhala festival and
Shambhala.
whatever. But Shambhala at its root is what people mistook as Shangri-La. And it's like this place that's so awesome. But Shambhala is translated as the way of the warrior. But the idea, and you being such a special warrior, it's interesting that, the way of the warrior was translated by the English as like, oh man, like this is like, you gotta be a warrior. But it's like, it's not about hurting anyone else. It's about being strong enough to confront this guy, this person right here. And it's like what you've been through to first acknowledge it and then to start taking the steps to embrace it, to whatever it is, from the combination of letting go and accepting it and seeing how to process it and then share it. I mean, that can help so many people because, once again, no one's getting out alive, but not everyone's going to live. And doing these things is so important, And it's so special that we have been able to share moments, that you've been able to share those moments with so many people and feel so good about it. But truly, it's the Shambhala thing. And it's weird because Shambhala, they talk about once you start finding that way of the warrior, that you'll cry at the sound of a song,
Yeah.
At that, like the little look of a little puppy or something. And it's like, why am I freaking crying? But it's like, that's some real stuff. And I believe for all of us that the gnarliest people that people see might not realize who that person really is driving that beast.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure too that you don't go out of a situation like that blaming yourself for something that you could have done or this, because you did what you could.
Well, and it's, just to touch a little bit on the Liz one, and again, it's like I can't fully go into it because it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a whole probably its whole podcast.
It's just, yeah, exactly. But there was a moment where my intuition was trying to speak to me with her deal. And there's part of me, like I said, I don't like to hold people back from what they're going to do. The line she wanted to ride had stable snow on it, and it was getting to the line that had something speaking to me. She was traveling on an aspect that we didn't have any beta from. It was a solar aspect. But there was a voice that was trying to speak to me. But for both of us, we were losing light on our runs. And the run I was doing was actually a little more mellow. And but there was something my intuition was trying to talk to me. But there were so many other things happening in the group that I didn't listen to it, So I guess just one thing that I would like to give to people is like, try to be in tune with your intuition, especially when it's like trying to tell you something bad is about to happen. Those are voices to lean into.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't figure this out till a couple years ago, but that voice inside, man, you got to listen to it. And it's when you're younger, man, I wish there's so many moments I wish I had, but now I'm so in tune with it. When it's telling me something, it's like, boom, you got to look at that. And I think you just learned that lesson heavy that day. Like your gut, man, is really the most important tool you probably have back there once you're experienced at the level you are, you know?
Yeah. And then I think conversely on that too, it's like, we don't want to only operate on that either.
Yeah.
You know, it's
You
good to
gotta
have
take your
systems.
intel
It's
together
good to
with
have
it.
systems. But the intuition is
Especially in a
ancient
moment, a
system that has
heated
been
moment.
used for a long time.
Yeah. It's heavy too, because you can ignore it and
the tough
never
thing
learn how to
is
listen to it.
it's almost in some stages, seen as weakness to be like, no, I don't know about this. And you don't want to be falling into that weakness because, I mean, once again, like how many insane things have you done that worked out? But
Yeah,
if
you shut down
if
that session, you never
interviewed
know what could
1,000
happen.
people, maybe 999 of them would be like, hell no.
Well, it's
And
like
then it worked
it's
out.
like a lot of the years when we were shooting, I actually remember this was kind of a rule I had. If there wasn't like a piece of fear in me, that this probably wasn't like a worthy shot to make the movie. Like because the level was like at this point where it was like stuff is scary. There's consequences. So fear is good.
Yeah.
But it's this other deep gut voice that's like different than like fear.
Well, when you say that, it's like if you're in Alaska and someone says, I'm not afraid, all of a sudden we're all afraid
He has too
for
far.
that person.
Right.
Completely agree with that. Fear is the thing that will drive you to make it work, or will talk to you and say, do it another day.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for sharing that with us, because that's pretty
Yeah,
gnarly
that's
stuff. I
awesome.
didn't
I mean,
necessarily know all that.
Even not going into it, it's like I almost lost
Oh,
it
dude,
there.
it's easy.
I'm still like,
Dude.
even just that little bit is therapeutic for me. So.
Yeah, dude, talking about it helps so much. And dude, sometimes you got to lose it, and that helps. Sometimes like you get that grief, it'll come up at weird times, and you got to just go with it and let yourself. I don't know. You probably should talk about it more.
Definitely.
On a deeper level with somebody, because they help you process it all.
Yeah.
But that's what part of the time on podcasts is, just processing, talking about it. When through my rehab and shit, it's all process is what you do, is talk about these things that puts you in that mind space that has you drinking when you're alone, because you got to talk about them and work it out. And then you realize like, oh, that's why I'm doing that, and you start to make sense of it all. So I'm glad you shared that with us. It's cool to get that out. And dude, just all this knowledge you're dropping on us with the guiding has been insane, dude. I can't imagine living on that level you have for so many years of doing this year round. I've always known you were kind of a nutcase, but damn, son.
Yeah, it's been rewarding.
Oh, that reminds me too. We have that shot of you jumping that Brighton cliff. I'll pop it up on the screen right here. There's going to be prints that Chris is selling. Do you remember that photo of Chris?
The Coulter.
Yeah.
We were talking about that recently because
It's the Bastard Chia cliff.
yeah, well, yeah.
Is
what
Bastard
is
Chia
this?
the first dude that
I
jumped
think
that?
so.
It was a Bastard Chia cliff. It was a Jeremy Jones cliff. It was a Coulter cliff.
I bet Ruff hit it at some point.
Pat Howell's got a shot on it.
Didn't Randy hit it? Like,
Oh yeah,
Randy,
killer.
And then this past couple years ago, that one homie hit it up at Brighton. I
Oh,
forget.
man.
Dude, yeah. But only like very few people here and there step to that thing.
Well, it's just cool that if your name's on the plaque, that's
Yeah.
all that.
That's all that matters. Dude, I bet last year with all that snow, you could just freaking take
Well,
an
we were
inner
talking
tube
about,
off
it'd be
that
so
thing.
cool at Brighton if you had plaques like on trees near features, just to like have like what happened, who did it,
That
what
would be
year.
so sick. Updated every year.
And all the cool names. I remember one season the ski patrol came to us and they're like, Can we just kind of sit down and look at the map, and can you guys tell us what you call all this stuff? Because we keep getting calls of spots that we have no idea. Someone's hurt under the Doggy Balls cliff. We don't know what that is.
Where was this? This is at Brighton?
Yeah, the patrollers wanted to know
that's so
all
sick.
of our slang for,
Yeah.
for everything.
I want to say last year we were out there. Who
Doggy
was I
balls.
with? And there was a ski patrol looking for someone, and we are like, it's near the the Bybee hip.
And they're like, what? Dude?
You know, by the Ruffinator. And it's like, what the fuck?
Dude, I never
So-
thought about that. Yeah, we have the whole snowboard culture has its own talk that the ski patrol has no clue of.
Well, at the same time, people nowadays with their phones, it's funny how most of the time I have no idea what they're talking about. I heard it the other day. They're like, we're going over to Tantamount, and then we're going to go down like whatever this name is. And
it's named in the backcountry, that stuff?
on the mount, I don't know. You know, like these, like
It's on the
but
phone,
everyone
there's
knows
apps for
like
it.
the
Yeah.
exact
Yeah.
shoot name and all this
Right.
stuff, and it's like, wow, everyone's just ridden that for decades.
Yeah, we call
and
that
never-
three-turn.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you
Holy
talking
shit.
about? That's pretty funny stuff.
That's dope.
Important anyway.
man.
Shane, thanks for stopping in, dude. I thought you offered great insight as well.
Sure.
I know
I
that
love
you guys
you guys.
had such a good relationship over the years. I thought it'd be special for you to come in and
Absolutely. When you are, you know, connected with genuine and sincere people, there is no time limit. There's no.
you've had this
separation.
relationship with a lot of people, dude, over these years.
Yeah, you know, that's actually one thing I'd just like to touch on real quick. It's like Shane fostered things for me, but it hasn't stopped. He's done it for so many people. I've seen it happen for tons of people. You've helped get a lot of people into this, you know, and
Well, each one of you helps me.
and
Yeah.
and all the tricks and cool things that I got to do with you. I think some of the standout moments to me were like after that was done, and we were just cruising around in the mountains looking for other snowboard spots. Those are some of my favorite memories with you.
True. Well, when you refer to the Lost Boys, I feel like we all know whether we're part of it, and I feel like once you become a Lost Boy, no matter what that background is, you have found, you know, the thought process to be happy enough to be able to fly. And I feel like once you do that, there is no age limit.
That's right.
And, you know, like our connections are absolutely mutual in that, finding that stuff.
Heck yeah.
Love you. big
Dropping the
time.
knowledge, bro. Thanks for joining us today, Shane. Yeah, so all this talk about guiding, you kind of touched on it with Shane. You just got a new job at Powder Bird,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
brings
so-
you back to Salt Lake, which is awesome.
Yeah, so you know, there's a few like reasons why I wanted to take this job. So I'm the first snowboarder they've hired in their 51 years of operation. So
That's crazy,
yeah.
dude.
So I wanted to try to open that door for the people that are going to come behind me. So hopefully I do a good job of opening that door.
I think you're a good person to start that process and stand up for the rest of the shredders, you know?
And another thing is you know, I go to the Southern Hemisphere in the summer. I've been spending time in Colorado and Alaska. I've been lucky to get like 4, sometimes 5 months here in Salt Lake, and I've really feel like I've lost connection with my community here, and I want to reconnect with my community, as well as have more time at home to do things like make doctor's appointments.
Yeah, just the
and-
things that you do in life.
you know, and just take better care of myself and get myself in a physically and more mentally healthy place.
What were you
know?
doing with your house while you were be gone?
So I've been fortunate. I always rent it to friends,
Sick.
you know, and kept a room in there and things like that, which has been amazing, you know.
Or you'd keep your own room
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
rent it out, but you could come here when you needed to. And
Yeah, exactly. Because like transitioning through, you know, Colorado, Alaska, I'd always stop here and kind of switch up my gear or whatever. Sometimes it's really quick transition, like
But not
Just-
enough to do the doctor's appointments.
just
and
so,
then
yeah, it'd be literally like overnight.
Yeah.
You know?
just trade out some stuff and be back on the road.
But Powder Birds has been operating for 51 years, and there's
that's
this
crazy.
big push in the industry in general right now for mental health and like awareness, you know, throughout, you know, like ski patrols, guide operations. And so they're offering us like 3 counseling sessions,
Damn.
you know, so it's pretty incredible. And I'm going to take advantage
They
of
have
those.
one on staff basically, or they have someone they're working with, and you get
yeah.
3.
Yeah, they've hired on a psychologist who's going to provide that opportunity to us, and it's, you know, it's an in-house thing, and I'm going to take advantage of it.
Dude,
you know?
I hope everyone up there does, because, you know, it's hard to be like, all right, I'm going to sit down and bear all to this person, but they're professionals, you know, they know what they're doing, and it helps just to talk about it. So that's really cool. I like that they're letting you, like, something doesn't have to happen, and then you get classes. Like anyone, you get your three sit downs as part of the job. That's really cool.
Yeah, because it's
I'm gonna give them one of these because that's really, really cool that they're doing that.
props to the powder bird.
Because you guys, all of you, if you're a vet, you've seen some shit. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
So you guys probably need that. So that's really cool. And then is there another program? If something goes down, do they give you more? Or that's not talked about?
That 3 sessions is extended to the full-time staff, and then if something happens, they have this person ready to talk to everybody on the staff.
Sick.
Ready to go. Part-timers. Yeah, and that's somewhat normal. I've even been offered. I was, some of those accidents that happen, I was offered opportunities to talk to a psychologist. I didn't take it.
Really?
I probably should have.
Yeah.
Like I said,
you think you don't need it.
Yeah, exactly. You think you don't need it. You think you're tough. And it really took me a couple of years before I realized that I hadn't done what I needed to do to process that stuff,
Well, you and I are from that time where our parents, definitely would not get that.
Right.
Like your dad wouldn't get that, and my dad wouldn't get that. I don't know. I don't know what your dad would do, but it just wasn't common, really. And then even for us, it's like I don't know. I always kind of fought it. Like, I'm not going to talk to this person. Like, I don't need that. And then nowadays, the kids in this generation, I feel like they're all about it. They're down to talk about stuff, and so that's cool. But for us, it's something I think we push down, and what you've dealt with is gnarly. And I guess it's good to know that, like you're saying, and just talk about it, recognize it.
Yeah.
And it's hard, man. But I think that you are a great person to have out there, and you got to remember that, dude. You're passionate. You're putting in. You're doing something you love.
Yeah, I love the snowboarding. I love the chance to share the mountains with people. I just realized I forgot.
Damn, dude.
I forgot I brought something for you.
Wow.
I got this. Gags gave this to me years back. It's
Dude.
an old Team 2 binding. Still has the tag on it.
With the tag.
And high back backpack in there.
Woo.
And there's a little something for you in that high back backpack.
Damn, dude.
well.
This is insane, bro.
And got you just listening to some of the episodes you've done, and you're getting into yoga, and that's the thing that I'm into.
Dude?
So I got you a gift certificate to this yoga studio I've been training
Crazy.
at. And
Are you pretty gnarly with yoga?
no, I would say I'm more on a maintenance level.
Yeah.
I
Keep your body
don't
nice.
look like a yogi, but
Dude, thank you so much, Chris.
but so you can go in and do your first week is free. So if the studio thing is something you're not into,
I'm down, dude.
Well, you could use that gift card to buy a yoga mat.
Oh,
or
sick. Yeah,
maybe
just-
you can get Angie some yoga pants or,
Yeah.
whatever. No
Dude,
pressure on what you
I'm
do
down
with
to
that.
go in because it's cool to get the class atmosphere going. That's kind of how I started doing it. And they had this thing they drilled into you, like because at first you're a little self-conscious, you're moving all these weird ways all of a sudden. And they were like, they had this philosophy, like your mat is your bubble. No one can see in, you can't see out, and you just got to focus. And then no one's looking at you. They have their own issue going on, So at first you're just like, this is weird. I'm moving in weird ways.
Yeah, and it's one thing I actually like about the studio environment. I used to do a lot at home, but when I go to the studio, I feel like I push myself a little harder because if I'm starting to get winded at home or something, I can just
you stop. That's so true.
And at the studio, I'll lay down sometimes and recover.
Yeah.
But then there's also all these other weird layers I've had to pull back at the studio where like maybe someone next to you is making a weird noise or it's a teacher you haven't been to and their style's different and you're like being judgmental or whatever. And it's like these layers that I have to peel back in myself and just, like you said, no, just be in your space.
Focus on your bubble.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
And try to find that empty mind and don't get distracted with things.
Yes. And that's the whole part of it, I guess, is getting your mind to be present and go throughout your day after you do it and as a more present. And then for me too, it just, I remember I'd wake up, because we would do it early. And I don't know when you do your classes or whatever, but it'd be pretty early morning and you'd wake up, just be like, man, I got to go do this. And then you leave just like dancing on air. You're so hyped and you feel so good. So I guess that's what keeps you going back.
For sure.
But yeah, I'd be stoked to try this place out, dude. I like their colors on their cards, dude. I feel like these guys have a good vibe.
Yeah, and they got 3 studios in town.
Oh, they do?
Pretty big schedule and a variety of
Spark Joy.
types of classes. It's core power yoga.
Core Power Yoga.
Yeah.
Sick, dude. Thank you so much, Chris.
No worries, buddy.
And not to mention this bad boy.
Yeah, I thought that would be cool in the
That's so rad.
the boarding house studio.
Yeah, dude. People are sending some stuff in, and I have to get some shelves going to start stacking up the stuff that shows up, the memorabilia.
Yeah, it's looking well, I've just found these things in my life to be passionate about. And the newest one has been the motorcycles the last like 5 years. I got one to build a timber sled. And
Oh, you did a timber sled?
Yeah.
Sick.
But
dude.
through that in the summer.
Oh, that's why you got it, was to build a timber sled.
Yeah. And I rode it in the summer and I was like, my dad used to ride motorcycles and I did it when I was younger. And I reconnected with it and got really into it. And I was working up in Idaho during the pandemic. I had a job as a medic on this reality TV show, and I started kind of searching for trails in Idaho, and I fell on this tour of Idaho ride. And then I started finding YouTube videos of guys have done it and researching it. And this guy, Martin Hackworth, puts it on. He's been doing it for 20 years. Last year was the last year he's going to do it as an event. But in 20 years, 102 guys have finished it under his kind of parameters.
And how many people enter? What are we talking?
So usually about like 40 to 60 a year try to do it. So it's got a less than 10% success rate.
Damn, dude.
And I got into this thing, and originally I was like trying to get friends to do it with me, And I had a few friends that were like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And so I'm just eager, start building my bike. And then as the friends kind of like look into what it is, it's an undertaking. And it's a lot to dedicate financially, time-wise, all of it. And so basically I realized if I want to do this, it's on my own.
Yeah.
Which adds some pressure. You've got to carry a chainsaw on the front of the bike.
Yeah, so give me the breakdown. What's going on with
Rope
this thing?
evac kit. It basically, you start at the Utah border and you're basically trying to ride to Canada. And it's about a 13-day ride. The first day is a test piece because he doesn't, basically, if you can't get through the first day, he doesn't want to kind of
Yeah, then he doesn't even want you on the program.
So the first day took me 19 and a half hours to complete.
What?
It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Seriously?
It was crazy. I mean, towards the end, I was
And
like,
that's his testing?
Some people got through it in like 15 hours this year. I mean, it was pretty ridiculous for me to go after this at my ability level.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that do this are like used to race and things like that. But
You're coming kind of off the couch almost as far as biking goes, because moto goes.
And so I found out about this years before I tried it, and I tried it this September. So the last couple of years, I've basically been taking a couple motorcycle riding lessons.
Oh, okay.
Preparing a bike, training mentally, going out on like long rides, changing things on the bike after those rides. Just
making sure you're all good.
It's been
What took 19 and a half hours? Like, what was the...
It was 240 miles with a lot of single track. It just takes that long to get through it. I mean, a lot of the people I saw this year, they took around that time. 19
So it's like
hours.
a single track to Canada? Is that what?
Yeah, you're basically connecting single track. So Idaho has more single track than any of the states in the U.S. and you're connecting like tarmac, Jeep roads, double track, but trying to use as much single track as possible. And
he has the route laid out.
Yeah, and it's all just waypoints, so it's not just a track you're following. So there's all this navigation and decision making. Sometimes you get to a fork in the road, and he doesn't just have a track. You've got to kind of look at the map and go to end up at this waypoint. I need to take this fork, and so there's a lot to it. Hotels every night.
So after you had to make it to that, there's a spot you're making it to. And that's where, there's a hotel. And it took you 19 and a half hours.
Yeah.
And so what's day 2 look like? Are you just beat to shit already?
Yeah, just already pretty hammered. You know, I slept in a little bit, probably more than I should have that day, but I still was up and riding by like 7 a.m. or something.
Wow.
And that was another 200 and something mile day. Day 3, I started to, you know, that was like off the grid. So I couldn't, basically he wasn't giving you all the waypoints for that day.
Yeah.
So at that point, after you finish day 1, he emails you written instructions for day 3 and 4.
Wow.
And so now you're kind of reading these instructions and you don't have the waypoints and you're problem solving. And I really got my butt handed to me on day 3. There was some riding that was like really difficult.
Yeah.
I got through it. Day 4, I made a couple navigation mistakes and started to kind of fall behind. But anyway, after day 4, I kind of knew that I wasn't going to get the kudos, but I knew that was going to happen. Pretty much, I anticipated that I was going to come up short.
From the whole thing at the end anyways?
Yeah, I was just doing this to challenge myself and to give me something to be focused on and not have idle time. You know, because like I talked about earlier, this idle time in my life, I was not using wisely.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to fill my life with activities, adventures, and things to focus on.
And what a community that must have behind it.
Yeah, and I've made a lot of new friends with the motorcycle stuff, you know. But anyway, this is like a 14-day ride. I made it through day 9. I shortened some of the trails.
You're such a beast.
And you know, we got to day 9, and I was just telling Shane as he was walking out that, you know, I got to this point with day 9. I was exhausted. My left hand wasn't working, which is where your clutch is. And
it was so tired?
Yeah, just from working that clutch. And I was starting to make mistakes. And I kind of just got to this point where, is it worth it to keep pushing and have like something bad happen? Or
can you just go back next year?
Or should I just go ride with some friends and call it good here? I had a great experience. And one of the highlights, once I knew that I was like not going to get the kudos anymore.
So you did decide like, okay, I'm going to...
Yeah, I tapped out at day 9.
Day 9.
But at day 4, I knew I wasn't on track to get the kudos. And I was coming through Ketchum, and I had broken a brake pedal. They didn't have it at the motorcycle shop where I was getting new tires put on the bike. And so I hit up Wyatt Caldwell and Yancey Caldwell, and they rode like 30 miles with me that day after I got my new tires on. And that was one of the highlights of the whole ride, is actually getting to experience part of this journey with them. You know, some of my
Dude, the fact that they just jumped out and did that was so cool.
I mean, you know, and if you know those guys, they're as good as gold. You know,
dude,
like,
we'll send one of these.
Yeah.
Will you do it again?
Yeah. So I would like to go and finish what I didn't, and then another thing I'd like to do is like bite off like a 2 or 3 day piece with friends. My favorite kind of little parts. I'd like to go back and revisit.
Go back with your own crew.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome, dude. Because there's probably some pretty misty things
man.
in there that your friends haven't been able, that are into it, haven't been able to see that you can bring them to and be like, this part of the ride is awesome. And you know where to stay now and like when to stop. And dude, that's so cool.
But it's a crazy adventure. You know, I had like a rope system on my saddlebag, extra tube.
Why do you need that?
So like if you drop your bike off the trail, you can like use this mechanical advantage to get it back up.
And does everybody have that?
Yeah, it was like a requirement to do it. Yeah. Bear spray, you know, carrying like a 10 millimeter gun for bears.
What'd you say about a chainsaw?
Yeah, and a chainsaw, because you get to places where there are trees, the wind is blowing the trees over. And so you got to cut the trees out of the trail.
And there's not other people like behind you, like you do it all.
Well, so I was one of the last guys to go the season, and people had gone and cut a bunch of trees out, but the wind would blow, and
a new tree falls.
Yeah, you know, I'd probably cut.
They don't release
40 something trees out.
They don't release like people at the same time. It's like you're starting and you're going.
Yeah, one team per day. You know, and one, 2 or 3 man teams. You know, and if anyone's interested, you know, it's not an event anymore, but the information's still up. The website's motorcyclejazz.com. If you're looking for a challenge and you like motorcycles.
How come it's not an event anymore? It just got
the guy that runs it, you know, he never charged anything. He's a super eccentric guy that put this amazing ride together. And, you know, that was one of the things I was thinking about when I was doing this. Is like, how
is he doing this?
He put all this together.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible.
Dude, it's rad when someone has passion about something, what they can do, you know?
Yeah.
And when they're willing to do it and share it with everybody. And and that's why they do it. Really, dude, it's crazy to think too the success rate. That's so gnarly.
Oh yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Is that type 2 fun where it's just gnarly as it's happening, but you look back and you love it?
I think,
or is it just fun the whole time?
I
for
think
you?
there was a few moments like day 3. There was some type 2 where I was like, "What am I doing here? I don't belong here."
You're such a gnarly
But
dude too, so I can imagine that.
Most of it was just incredible.
Yeah.
And fun in the moment.
And you're out there and
Yeah.
you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Or is there you had a team?
No, a solo. I'd say a little bit of the end of day 1, I was having some self-talk.
That 19 and a half hour
Like,
day.
this is ridiculous. What am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, I started riding faster than I should have because I was like, I got to get this done.
Got to get this done. Then
Yeah.
you start to get dangerous.
Yeah,
and-
I even had kind of a close call, a pretty good crash on day 1 because I was riding too fast. It was getting dark.
You're like, I have to
hit
get
a
there.
branch and got thrown off the trail, but calmed down after that and got back into a better pace for my ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What with the winter time here at your new setup at Powder Birds? What does that mean for the summer for you? Do you still see yourself going South America?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're gonna keep this heavy
Yep,
schedule?
Yeah. I mean, the sled chili gig with Skylar and a couple of my buddies that I work with down there, Cam Spice and Michael Chandler are other guides, and Cesar Gilbert is kind of the owner and another one of our guides. It's the coolest job I've ever had.
Yeah.
Like, I got to keep doing it.
How
It's
much
the
time is
best.
there between here to there?
I get a few months.
Oh, you
Yeah,
do? So
yeah,
that's perfect, huh?
Yeah, and I'll do Alaska this spring as well with the Silverton guys.
And are you guys able to make a good living doing this as a guide?
You know, the first 5 years, it was pretty close to a minimum wage kind of thing. As you become a better guide at the operation, they start taking better care
Get paid.
of you. Yeah,
Do you guys
it's-
get tipped out?
and the tips really help
Yeah.
make it a livable situation.
That's
yeah.
what I was wondering when these really wealthy people come through.
Yeah.
And you show them a good job. Yeah, I imagine you guys get tipped, huh?
Yeah.
Do the snowboard crews tip you guys?
Yeah, you know, I mean,
'Cause I don't remember that ever coming up. I wonder if I.
it's a little less with the film crews.
Yeah. But I was with a lot of times with a brand, and I'm sure the brand who pays for it tips.
Yeah, it kind of depends, you know. Like when I worked with Xavier, those guys tip me out. Some of the film crews don't always tip you out, but you know, your general. We're doing less film crew stuff, and especially with Silverton, we didn't do hardly any film crew stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, the
people-
job here, dude, is probably like hardly none. Probably.
Yeah.
It's like clients coming in,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of money in clients, like big dogs coming through the Utah area. It's like the only place to heli around here.
It's funny though. I mean, you can't stereotype things too much, but I would say, you know, your better tips often come from
True.
you know, more blue collar workers and things like that. You know.
Sometimes the rich guy doesn't really even think about it, and
Yeah.
even though they could change things for you that week.
Yeah, but it's not always the case. You know,
Yeah.
we've got some guys that are really wealthy and they come back year after year and take super good
Yeah, those
care
are the
of
guys
us,
that
you know?
they love what you're doing, so
Yeah.
they're coming back.
And we know the kind of things they like, and we can set them up with, like, you know, little things. You know, have things ready for them when they show up.
Yeah, 'cause you
maybe
know they
their
need it.
favorite tequila or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
The one in South America must be pretty rad. I bet that's where people are coming back to. Huh?
Yeah, and it's a super intimate thing there. Like, we don't even have a website for it. It's all word of mouth. 'Cause
Really?
We just do 4 guests a week, and we run about a 4 to 6 week season, you know.
Just
Kind of
4
depends.
guests,
Just 4 guests a week, so it's real intimate.
and you have like just lodging for them, and you guys have living quarters, and
Yep.
that's pretty rad.
Yeah,
So you
and-
really get to know your guests, and it's not like so big that you're not meeting people.
Oh yeah, and we spend the whole day with them. We really get to know people. Often, almost always, we know them pretty well before they come down.
Yeah.
And basically they get a snowmobile and a driver, and then all the food and everything. We all live on the same compound. We got a wood-fired hot tub, and we just shuttle them runs. You know, sometimes we'll get out on the slope and assess the snow, and once we feel good, we're basically just their chairlift. We just bump them runs.
That's so sick. So
Yeah.
they just got to be comfortable getting doubled.
Yep.
And then they're good to go.
yeah.
And are you guys pretty booked up already? Or is it something that like pre-books?
It kind of pre-books. I'd have to check in and see where we're at. You know, I would say we probably still have a week, maybe 2 weeks
Yeah.
open next season.
I'll make sure in the show notes to link up the website, or you don't even have a website.
Yeah, you can honestly,
whatever
honestly,
info you can put me.
Yeah, just reach out on the Instagram. You can reach out to Skylar Holgate on
What
his
does
Instagram.
it cost for somebody to go? Do you know?
So it's not as much as a heli trip, but it's probably around $5,000. I don't know. The price changes a little bit every year, so.
And that includes though your lodging, your food,
Yep, sled,
your bump
guide.
ups, your
Yep.
personal chairlift,
Yeah.
and heli would be, dude. Heli's a lot more a day, right? I imagine it's just that heli cost
I think at Powderbird we're right around 2,000 a day or something like that.
for the whole heli, right?
Yeah, for like per person for 6 runs.
Oh, per person.
Yeah.
6 runs.
Yeah,
Woo.
it might be like 1,800 or something. It might be.
That's
a
what
little less,
Hellion
but-
is these days. Dude, I guess lift tickets are like $220 nowadays. So.
Yeah, Silverton I think was like $1,200 for the day, 6 runs.
6 runs, dude. That's, I gotta say though, for someone, if they are thinking about heliing, they've never done it, it is worth every penny, man. You get, dude, just riding around in that heli your first couple times.
It's a cool experience.
Man, the feeling you get the adrenaline just getting in that thing in the morning, and you're up hella early, the sun's coming up. It's just, what a feeling, dude. I can't. Does it get to you to a point where it's like not special like it is for me? Like, are you so used to it?
Oh no, it's always special. Helicopters are amazing machines, and we got to use a 205 down in Silverton, which is like a different machine than the A-Stars that we're used to.
Yeah,
It's
I've only
older,
done the
like,
A-Star.
Vietnam era helicopter.
Heard about
so
these.
it's cool to get in those and talk to the pilots and learn more about aviation and stuff is always interesting. And Silverton does offer single runs too. So if you want to have that experience, but maybe not commit to such a large cost financially, you can do a single run down at Silverton.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah.
I remember Shane and I were in Anchorage, and we were at a spot that did single runs because they were bringing out miners or something. And so they bring out the miners, and then they come back, and you could pay for a single run because we wanted to build a jump,
Oh, yeah.
So they just dropped us off.
No way.
And then picked us up in the afternoon when they were back picking up the miners.
Oh, that's
And it was
epic.
something like $150 a person or something.
that's cool.
And we were able to go out there. And
Were you guys in like outside of Anchorage? Or
I
where
want
were
to
you
say,
guys?
yeah, we left from the Anchorage airport.
Yeah.
Which
Maybe
was
close
pretty
to
rad.
Goodwood or something.
Yeah.
Cool.
Really, really sick. Well, geez, dude, I think we about done this
Yeah,
thing,
it was-
man.
Appreciate you having me on, Ethan.
Dude, it was so cool to catch up with you and talk, and awesome seeing
Yeah.
you again, dude. And thank you so
Definitely an
much
honor
for
being
this.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, if there's anything else, I think we did it.
Yeah. I think
All
we did
right.
it.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in, Chris. So good to see you again,
So
bro.
good to see you, Ethan. Real
And
good to see you.
we'll be back in a week. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Right on, Chris.
Yes, Stonies Buds.
Send you one more of those, bro. Yeah, dog.
Yeah, but-